Chapter 1251, The Heaven-Suppressing Tower 2. You're forcing me to use the heaven-suppressing tower. The Saint King flipped a hand. A gray stone tower appeared and expanded. It was plain-looking at the beginning, but it soon unleashed the pressure of a ferocious beast. Su Ping could feel how terrifying the tower was, even though he was inside Shen Huang's small universe. His mind and soul were in awe. What a great treasure! Yi Chen's eyes glittered. He was rather astonished, not expecting that the old man would have such a great treasure. Shen Huang slightly changed his expression and swung his saber again. Waves of auras emerged in the void, caused by laws and grand paths. However, the waves were covered by the stone tower and were being swallowed. The tower flew like a shuttle, its dark bottom pressed close to Shen Huang. The latter swung his saber consecutively and launched terrifying auras, which were swallowed by a black hole located underneath the tower. They only slowed the tower down a bit. It's useless. My ultimate treasure can suppress celestials. It is said that it even suppressed the mysterious heavens back in the ancient times, and they must have been as strong as universe dominators, said the Saint King. It was one of his ultimate treasures. It was rare for him to use it. Having such a treasure had earned him the name Saint King, who was superior to the 12 celestials. He oversaw the planet of origin and nobody disobeyed him. Bang, bang, bang. Shen Huang was still swinging his saber in a gloomy yet unhurried manner, further slowing down the heaven-suppressing tower. It was still approaching him at a high speed, but he managed to buy himself a couple of seconds. Right when the tower was about to hit him, Shen Huang flipped a hand and darted out a shadow. The Saint King saw this. It was a black bone. A bone! Exactly at that moment, the tower swallowed the object, then it suddenly slowed down and came to a stop. The Saint King was slightly dazed, feeling that the tower couldn't move any further. He had owned the tower for hundreds of thousands of years and nurtured it with his blood and essence. It was a shame that the tower's level was too high. He had never been able to cultivate a new tower spirit after the old man had perished. What's going on? Is it full? The Saint King was familiar with the tower's operations. Even though it was powerful, it would always take some time to rest after having consumed enough food. Such rests could last from 10 to 1,000 years. That bone! The Saint King realized what was wrong. Shen Huang was slightly relieved to see that the tower had been stopped. He was regretful, but at the same time he felt somewhat lucky. That bone belonged to a certain corpse he had found. The being had very likely reached the universe dominator level or higher when they were alive. He was paralyzed by the lingering aura when he first saw the corpse, and even had to kneel before the corpse for 300 years before he finally overcame the fear. He was already a celestial on top of the pyramid back then. No one knew that a lofty celestial everyone looked up to had once been on his knees for 300 years in front of a corpse. Once ready to leave that corpse, he summoned all his courage to pick up that bone, which had been lying to one side. He had studied it for a long time and learned a lot, but he was forced to give it up to survive just then. "Why is your treasure not moving?" Yi Chen asked curiously when he passed by the Saint King. The latter said with a gloomy tone, "It's full." He retrieved the tower after replying. Yi Chen also realized that something seemed to be wrong with the tower. His temporary ally didn't seem to be playing tricks. No more words were said. He took out 3 runes, ignited them and then swung them out. 3 black chains instantly darted forward. Shen Huang slightly changed his expression and swung his saber to parry. However, the chains seemed to be illusory. They avoided the saber's edge and tied Shen Huang up. These are the chains of feelings. They can't be cut apart. Yi Chen smiled after seeing that Shen Huang was trapped. Those chains were some of the best ultimate treasures in his arsenal. Even celestials could be ensnared if they weren't met with weapons that countered them. Holy Realm, Heavenly Wolf Spear. A magnificent universe appeared behind the Saint King. Light and Tao patterns were condensed to spiral and form a spear at the center, which then darted out. The long spear crossed the void. Its aura alone would have made a planet collapse. Shen Huang's face changed. He waved a hand and formed a golden shield. The golden shield had the vivid face of a pretty girl. She then opened her eyes and her expression was hideous as she bared sharp fangs to bite the long spear. But the next moment, the long spear went through her mouth and she let out a scream. The shield was broken, and Shen Huang's chest was hit. Yi Chen dashed forward and stabbed with a long spear while unleashing his small universe. His move summoned the illusion of a universe that appeared right at the tip of the spear. Su Ping suddenly shouted, "Watch out!" He drew his sword at the same time and slashed with the burning power of chaos. Shen Huang was going to resist the attack when he heard Su Ping's cry. He was dazed for a moment, but then the scorching sunlight around him burst out like a nuclear explosion. A shadow was revealed behind Shen Huang's back when the blast was spread out and was flung back by the blast. Meanwhile, Su Ping's sword aura hit him and cut him apart. Damn it! The shadow retreated several thousand meters. Dark organs were still moving energetically inside his torn chest. His body was gradually healing. Dao patterns. He has mastered Dao patterns while still being a mere Star Lord. He must not be kept alive. It was a slim man in strange armor holding a dagger. His lips were black and his face cold. He too was a celestial expert. Yi Chen was greatly relieved to see him. "You're here too? Great." "He's been hit by my nether blade. He's doomed, just stall him," said the man coldly. Yi Chen looked at Shen Huang, noticing that there was an unhealable wound on the latter's abdomen. The edge of the wound was of an eye-catching black color, contrasting with Shen Huang's golden brilliance. "Master." Inside the small universe, Su Ping was shocked and infuriated to see Shen Huang's wound. "I'm fine." Shen Huang covered his wound and glanced at it. He then looked up at the man who had ambushed him. "Are all the people of the Doom Star Zone as unscrupulous as you?" "The Doom Star Zone has a tough environment. We endure cosmic radiation all the time and resources are always scarce. It's only natural that we make the best use of our powers." Indeed, the man was a celestial from the Doom Star Zone. He looked at Shen Huang indifferently and said, "You should know how my nether saber works. It used to be a universe dominator's weapon. Unfortunately, it lost the soul hunting function. No celestial would have been safe otherwise." Shen Huang took a deep breath and said, "Let me be the first one to try it then." "Huh?" The sword god who was killed by his saber said the same thing. "Alas, his sword wasn't as sharp as my saber," said the man with a sneer. "What a great weapon," remarked the Saint King after assessing the nether saber. Shen Huang suddenly said to Su Ping, "Little Su." While dazed, Su Ping said, "Master, you should just run. You can't unleash your full power now that I'm in your small universe. You should be capable of running away." "I won't die," Shen Huang said calmly. "My clone is in the celestial court. It's just a heavenly lord though, but he'll be safe while protected by my celestial artifacts. I can rise to the celestial state again. I will break the barriers of this universe with all the power in my body and teleport you to the celestial court. However, the distance is too far for me to navigate with precision. There might be errors." Shen Huang added calmly, "Rush to your store once you get to the celestial court. Your planet is not protected by my artifacts. I can't use them to stop the enemy. You'll have to rely on yourself." Chapter 1252, Oblivion 1. Su Ping couldn't help but ask, "Master, are you going to sacrifice your original self?" "It's hard for me to return in one piece today." Shen Huang was solemn as he replied. No lies were said. Although he had foreseen it, Su Ping's heart shivered when he heard his master. He was overwhelmed by grief. He had been but a nominal disciple to Shen Huang. The man had only sent his battle pet, Elder Yan, to teach him some skills. However, the man was now willing to make such a great sacrifice for a disciple he barely knew. That exceeded Su Ping's expectation. Su Ping remained silent. The favor was too great for him to express his gratitude with words. "Get ready." Shen Huang became stern all of a sudden. Su Ping was then able to sense how the energy in the universe was quickly being extracted. It gathered around Shen Huang's body. "Watch out, he might be trying to escape." Outside, the three celestial attackers noticed that Shen Huang was being surrounded by burning sunlight, as if preparing to release an ultimate skill. However, their ample battle experience allowed them to discern that it was probably not an attack. It might just be a ruse to make his getaway. Yi Chen would never stand idle and let Su Ping return to the store. Sleeping in peace was rare since he fled from the store back then. He had heard tales about that demonic store. Every store caretaker would rise to become stronger than deity emperors and would dominate their eras. Waiting for death would be the only option if Su Ping only stayed in the store and cultivated. Su Ping had fallen to temptation and ventured outside. Yi Chen would surely make use of the rare opportunity and kill Su Ping no matter the cost. Deity Realm Godly Mark. Yi Chen waved his hands, unleashing an ancient deity technique. The previous hellish realm was transformed. A small universe surfaced behind him and melted into the realm. A stream of intimidating power was then spread out, freezing time and space. Space was temporarily sealed, even though they were in the ninth space. Huh. Shen Huang sensed the changes around him and his expression became stern. He transformed his power and furiously slashed with his saber. He was planning to break the barriers of the universe, but he had to keep on fighting. He didn't think that Yi Chen was able to block that space for an extended period of time. After all, that was the chaotic ninth space. Being able to seal it was already quite shocking. The Saint King and Mo Rai, the celestial from the doomed star zone, were just as shocked, not expecting Yi Chen to have such a terrifying method. Neither of them thought they could escape if they were eventually trapped. Celestials could hardly be killed because they were good at escaping. However, Yi Chen's technique had actually stopped Shen Huang from running away. As expected of the devil from ancient times, he indeed has something to rely on and be reborn in this age. The Saint King's eyes glittered, doing a good job in hiding his killing intent. They were still partners at the moment. I cannot hold for too long. Hurry up! Yi Chen stood in the void, enduring the powerful tearing force of the ninth space and the other lingering forces. He wore a painful yet determined expression. The Saint King whispered and suddenly raised his hands, gathering white threads in his hands. An angel-like pet with 4 white wings appeared behind him at the same time and then merged with his master. The man instantly unfolded 2 pairs of wings and became taller. His old self then turned into a middle-aged man. A hollow and sacred aura was revealed on his forehead, and a third eye was opened. He gouged the eye with his bare hand. White blood flowed out of the wound. "Dusk of Gods," the Saint King said unhurriedly. His hand glowed and illuminated the void, raising terrifying and blood-curdling. "Auras." Shen Huang narrowed his eyes and couldn't remain calm any longer. He roared, "Are you truly going to do this?" He was truly angry now. He could understand the man's actions because of Su Ping's ominous potential. Furthermore, the planet of origin would be invincible if the Saint Heir had the legacy. They would no longer need to keep a low profile. The loss of a 100,000-year-old friendship was not a big deal. However, it was surprising to see the Saint King try so hard. That technique would damage the Saint King's own body. No one had tried as hard to kill Su Ping. "Where are you looking?" A cold voice was suddenly heard. Mo Rai appeared behind Shen Huang like a ghost, slashing once again with the nether saber. Shen Huang's expression changed a bit and fought back. The 2 ancient and worn-out weapons clashed. Space instantly started to tremble and hum. A stream of a strange power was spread out, as if something had been activated. Mo Rai was forced to retreat. The nether saber was shivering. He could sense an unyielding consciousness inside. "It's the saber soul." Mo Rai was dazed and delighted, never thinking that his saber's soul was still there, and that it would be roused at that very moment. That trip had already been rewarding enough for him. "It didn't react when I fought the sword god, but it woke up just now. Shen Huang's weapon must be very famous. You felt the desire to fight it." Mo Rai laughed with excitement, feeling the nether saber's consciousness. At the moment he thought he had all the advantages and that Shen Huang would surely die. Chapter 1253, Oblivion 2. Shen Huang was both shocked and suspicious, as he also sensed the strange waves coming from the guy's blade. Mo Rai's triumphant laughter made him realize something and felt sad. Am I truly doomed? Master. Su Ping then appeared next to Shen Huang, feeling an immense pressure the moment he got out. His bones were actually cracking. The ninth space's pressure was much greater than that in the eighth space. The seventh space was dangerous enough for normal ascendants. The eighth space was a place that even heavenly lords would think twice before entering, and the ninth space was 100 times more dangerous in comparison. Su Ping felt that the world was being twisted. The void in the ninth space was different from what he anticipated. He felt dizzy. It was as if countless vortices were spinning before him. The magnificent power of the universe was squeezing him both physically and mentally. He gritted his teeth and tried to keep his eyes open. The eyes of chaos enabled him to see the Tao patterns behind the illusions. He compiled the Tao patterns into pictures and saw the three celestials' foes and his master. They were all fuzzy. Even seeing them is this hard when I'm in the ninth space. The situation left him a deep impression about the gap between his current level and the celestial state. Why did you come out? Shen Huang changed his expression and yelled, Go back. Master. Su Ping was in a trance for a moment. He quickly sobered up after hearing his master, then said, You can't resist without your small universe. Don't mind me, I'll be safe. Shen Huang was shocked to see that his disciple was able to stay awake in the ninth space. Su Ping can resist without my protection. It had to be noted that the ninth space was dangerous even for celestials. They were taking a great risk by fighting there. Both the Saint King and Yi Chen would have retreated if they were any less determined. Shen Huang didn't insist, noticing how Su Ping was able to keep himself safe. He took a deep breath and roared as he activated his constitution. An ancient figure popped up right next to him. It was none other than Elder Yan, who had been Su Ping's mentor earlier. Elder Yan seemed rather gentle and loving. He smiled at Su Ping and then merged with Shen Huang. Old friend, do you know what the result of this battle will be? I know. I'm sorry that your life has to end here. I'm glad to be of service, Elder Yan smiled. They spoke briefly through their bond. Shen Huang became silent afterwards. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It took no more than 0.0001 seconds. A violent power surged out as they merged. Shen Huang's body seemed to be melting while unleashing a torrent of flames. Elder Yan was a celestial dragon. His dense scales were now covering Shen Huang's body like a piece of delicate armor. The armor was infused with infinite vitality. Tao patterns appeared and Shen Huang roared. He gathered his small universe on the blade and slashed at the Saint King. The Saint King also crushed the eyeball in his hand, which was glowing like a condensed universe. It exploded as the saber slashed forth. The fierce tearing force worked on the entire space. Yi Chen growled in a fearsome manner as he tried to keep the space steady. However, the force became too powerful for him to resist in the end. The realm was eventually torn apart. Now's the time. Shen Huang, who was bleeding and burning his life essence, summoned his strength again and slashed at the void. He was going to break the barriers of the universe to send Su Ping directly to the celestial court. The void cracked as the sharp saber made contact. Beyond the crack there were golden buildings which belonged to the celestial court. The place was countless light years away, but the distance had been erased by Shen Huang's saber. The celestial court was right before their eyes. Let's go, Shen Huang roared. Su Ping saw it. He gritted his teeth and stopped himself from sobbing. He rushed forward. Right in front was Shen Huang holding up the crack while bleeding profusely. Su Ping had no time to hesitate or say goodbye. He had to focus his every fiber on that sprint. All of his master's efforts would go to waste if he failed. You can't get away, said a creepy and indifferent voice all of a sudden. A sharp blade stuck out of Shen Huang's chest. Mo Rai had appeared behind his back at some point, and his terrifying nether saber ran him through with a strange red light. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. His head was about to burst. But the next moment he saw that Shen Huang's arm twisted backwards and pressed Mo Rai's head against his back. Then he roared. Go! The sound made Su Ping regain all of his senses, and his tears almost came out. Still, he didn't look back. He charged toward the crack at full speed. The distance was so short that Su Ping was approaching it in the blink of an eye, despite the suppression of the ninth space. Bang! A battle axe flew by, and Su Ping came to an abrupt halt. The crack was pounded by the battle axe, and it slowly began to close. You can't get away, said Yi Chen coldly while his hair fluttered. I've lost yet another great weapon because of you. I won't kill you so easily. I will torture you for all eternity, so that you regret ever being born in the first place. Su Ping gazed at the closed crack while in a daze. He was paralyzed, as if electric currents were flowing past him. Was he grieving, or was it despair maybe? The closed crack didn't make him despair. What Su Ping felt was an indescribable madness and a desire for killing. His master had created that channel with his life. The pressure of the ninth universe was still squeezing him. Su Ping struggled to turn around and look at Yi Chen. What's the matter? You want to kill me? Unfortunately, you ca, Yi Chen sneered, delighted to see Su Ping's contorted face. Shen Huang stopped struggling. On the other side, the Saint King was approaching. The wound on his forehead had healed, but it would take him 1,000 years to fully recover. There was a boom. Mo Rai broke free from Shen Huang's hold and severed one of his arms. The situation was instantly reversed. Shen Huang was covered in blood. He was already exhausted. The whole situation left him in a daze. He could not accept that he had failed to send Su Ping away, even though he had tried his very best. There was no more hope. Nobody would be able to avenge them in the future if Su Ping died. I'm truly doomed. Overcome with sadness, Shen Huang shivered as he approached Su Ping. He asked, Are you ready to die with me? Su Ping was silent. He didn't respond. Shen Huang couldn't help but heave a sigh. His sorrow deepened as he could understand Su Ping's feelings. The hope was right in front of his eyes, and now it was gone. Such desperation was insufferable, even for those who had always been through life and death. I've cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years and lived all kinds of lives. However, I have never lowered my head. Shen Huang proudly stood in front of Su Ping, despite his wounded body. Sadness had left his eyes. It was replaced by the relief at the end of his life. The anguish at the brink of dying only haunted him briefly. He had already let it go. Is that so? I will repurpose your spine into the back of my throne, said Yi Chen with a sneer. Chapter 1254, Predestination 1. You're just a remnant from old times. Are you even qualified to talk to me? Shen Huang sneered proudly. You were reborn in quite the stupid way. You couldn't even protect your own treasures. Do you really think you can conquer the universe? You're just a chess piece. Do you really know our world? Having his embarrassing story brought up again made Yi Chen flare up, but he managed to hold it in. Shen Huang's words surprised him and made him suspicious. He could tell that the former was not just threatening him. The guy genuinely despised him. What do you mean? Yi Chen frowned, thinking that the guy could probably reveal something before he died. After all, he had no friends at the moment. He had the Sutra old man as his advisor in the past, even if the old fellow wasn't entirely trustworthy. He had no one at the moment. He was cooperating with other Celestials and established the Heavenly Devil Alliance only to conquer the universe. Infighting would ensue once they crushed the Celestials of the other faction, so they were just partners with common interests. Are you scared? Shen Huang seemed to have looked right into his heart, seeing Yi Chen's reaction. He sneered and continued, It's no use. You survived once, but you will be obliterated this time. Do you honestly think that nobody in this universe can stop you? Shen Huang, you're talking too much, said the Saint King solemnly, and then opened his hands. The silver light gathered and formed a cross that sliced through the void and flew towards Shen Huang. You don't need to interrupt me. I won't tell him. I will let him die in regret. Shen Huang snorted and drew his saber, slicing the approaching cross. Die. Mo Rai was also quick to take action, but his target was Su Ping. Shen Huang turned cold. Ambushing a junior, do you even deserve to be a celestial? Seniority doesn't matter when you're killing someone. Stupid, Mo Rai said. He unleashed several Dao glyphs that surrounded Su Ping like chains. The latter sobered up once he felt the freezing sharpness. He luckily caught the inspiration for the ascendant state breakthrough he had tapped into earlier on, during that temporary lapse. Adding the chance he had to witness how his master had torn the barriers of the universe, he was on the verge to find the key to his breakthrough. Alas, he was interrupted before he found the answer. Damn it, maybe I'll be strong enough to fight them if I break through. Su Ping was angry, but he didn't lose his rationality. He would only die miserably if he were to fight them at the moment. He had to find a way to win, and his only shot was to rise to the ascendant state. He didn't know how strong he would be after advancing, but at least he was certain that he would no longer hold his master back. It's pointless for me to understand new laws. Normal roads to the ascendant state aren't open to me. I cannot enter the ascendant state even if I grasp all the Tao glyphs in existence. This is my bottleneck. The 8 small worlds have made any advancement all the more difficult. How exactly did the ancestral gods rise to the ascendant state? System, can you give me a hint? Just a little bit. Tell me how much energy you need. Can I pay it later? Su Ping thought quickly as he tried grasping for an opportunity to break through, now that his master blocked Mo Rai's last attack. All answers are predestined. You should know about the chain of causality since you've harnessed time and space. Maybe you've known the answer all along. The system sounded rather calm, as if unaware that Su Ping was undergoing a crisis. It said slowly, "This is an inevitable disaster for you. You should endure it or avoid it. That's your fate." Su Ping put on an awful expression, knowing that the system wasn't planning to help. He didn't blame the system for its heartlessness, though. It was very likely that he wasn't a proper host for the system. Considering the system's omnipotence, it would easily find another host and nurture another expert. I can't be sad or angry. I cannot complain. I cannot be anxious. Su Ping quickly dispelled all irrelevant thoughts from his head. He knew that the only way to survive was to concentrate and figure out how to break through. Su Ping had gone through lots of life-and-death moments in the decades spent roaming the cultivation sites. However, he had never felt true despair thanks to the system's resurrections. However, the premonition of death he hadn't sensed in a long time was there now. The experience gained in the cultivation sites proved to be helpful at the moment. His mind became absolutely rational as he considered what the system had told him. The system wasn't really standing by. Otherwise, it could have just remained quiet as usual. The answer is already predestined. That's right. The system is definitely capable of seeing through the river of time. It has probably even seen the end of the era. The future yet to happen is already fixed in the system's eyes. Therefore, the answer has already been decided. Su Ping thought quickly. Exactly at that moment several killing intents were trained on him. Su Ping woke up again, then saw his master fighting Mo Rai, the Saint King, and the others. Regardless of their fierce attacks, Shen Huang seemed to be unleashing the last bit of his vitality to block them. Chapter 1255, Predestination 2. Master, give me some time, said Su Ping in a hurry. All right, Shen Huang replied while fighting. He didn't know what Su Ping was going to do, but he would never let his disciple collapse while on his watch, especially after having fought for so long. Might as well enjoy the battle since it was impossible to escape. Su Ping instantly closed his eyes. His brains were practically boiling as his thinking went into overdrive. Time, space, void world, ascendant state. The answer is predestined. The barriers of the universe. Small universe. Infinite information went back and forth, interweaving in Su Ping's head, including the epiphany for the ascendant state he had attained moments before. Considering the system's answer, Su Ping felt that he was very close to finding the road to the ascendant state. I cannot rise to the ascendant state with my own laws. The differences between the ascendant and the Star Lord levels, aside from the unique laws, include the ascendant state worlds. Only by going through the heavenly tribulation and earning the heaven's approval can one's world evolve. Yes, the purpose of rising to the ascendant state is to change my small world. So even if I can't win the heavens' approval, what's the big deal? Su Ping snapped out of that rush of thoughts, just like having someone pour a bucket of cold water over his head. He finally realized how his mind had been restricted for too long. It was also partly because all the ascendants he knew had advanced by creating their own laws. Why did they have to go through the heavenly tribulation? Where was the heavenly tribulation from? Su Ping wouldn't have known the answers without the cultivation sites. However, he had learned of the existence of heavens back in the Archean divinity and on his visits to the Golden Crow world. They represented a level and were also living creatures themselves. It was better to stop and not rise to the ascendant state if they didn't approve of him and gave him tests. Bullshit. So the answer the system was referring to is the chaos star chart. Su Ping finally realized that he had been holding the key the whole time. It was funny that he had never realized it in the decades he had explored the cultivation sites. If you won't let me rise to the ascendant state, I will just ascend on my own then. Su Ping suddenly widened his eyes, which glowed brilliantly. But the next moment, he saw a man as dazzling as the sun being flung back. His armor was ragged and his blood spilled throughout the void. He was none other than Su Ping's master. Master. Su Ping's eyes widened. Humph, you're running out of strength. I said that I will turn your spine into the back of my throne, and I mean it. Yi Chen charged at Su Ping, ignoring Shen Huang, who was badly wounded. He hated Su Ping partly because the latter had snatched his treasures, but the main reason was that Su Ping's potential and the mysterious demonic store scared him. Die. Yi Chen raised a hand, creating an enormous hand made of energy that clenched Su Ping's body. Get lost, Su Ping roared and unleashed his fighting will. He fully activated his chaos constitution at that moment. A huge amount of chaos power was released along with his attack. His sword aura illuminated the void and made Yi Chen's energy hand collapse while moving further towards the ancient foe. Damn it! Yi Chen changed his expression, becoming even more determined to kill Su Ping. He didn't expect that the latter would be able to survive in the ninth space and still have reserves to launch such a powerful attack while in a suppressed environment. He was strong enough to crush all ascendants, and he was just a star lord. Both the Saint King and Mo Rai were astonished. Su Ping's attack would have shocked them if he were an ascendant, not to mention that he was just a star lord. Never had they seen an ascendant as strong as that young man. He's indeed a little monster. Indeed, he cannot be left alive. Grimness flashed in Mo Rai's eyes as he charged at Shen Huang, leaving Su Ping to Yi Chen, who was the most determined to get rid of the boy. A celestial could kill any star lord, no matter how brilliant. After all, he was 2 realms above. Devilish constitution. Yi Chen took action again, unleashing a torrent of devilish aura. He had been greatly exhausted by using the oracle and the hellish realm. He was forced to use his constitution, hopping to finish Su Ping off as soon as possible. His strength increased as the constitution was manifested. Then he rushed towards Su Ping across the void. Su Ping's eyes were bloodshot, as his fury couldn't go any higher. He had finally found the road to the ascendant state, but had no time to try it. His opponent would have enough time to kill him hundreds of times if he chose to advance right then and there. Giving up was the only option. Desperation was one of the greatest pains in life. Still, a greater pain was the hope of being freed from despair, but having no means to see it through. Countless geniuses had probably experienced the same in all of history. Magic restriction. Yi Chen's face was cold, his black hair fluttered. He launched a round of attacks. Su Ping instantly felt that the Tao patterns by his side were going out of control. There was a boom. Yi Chen smashed with his fist and Su Ping responded in kind. He was flung hundreds of meters back, while Yi Chen also shook, flying almost 10 meters back. The outcome left him in shock. You really have to be killed. Coldness emanated from Yi Chen's eyes. He charged even faster. "You wouldn't have survived a single punch if we were on the same level." Su Ping roared and fought using his full strength and burning all his essence. Since he couldn't break through, he knew that it would be his last battle. He had been through countless battles back in the cultivation sites. Never did he think that his final clash would take place in the ninth space with those odds. But there are no ifs in reality. Yi Chen's face was cold. He knew that Su Ping was right, but that was just how life was. He didn't feel embarrassed. After all, Su Ping had the mysterious demonic store as backer, while he only had an incomplete Emperor-level sutra. Everybody had different opportunities. He was quite satisfied with his life, thinking that it wasn't bad for him to have reached that level. Bang! The sword aura slashed forth. Yi Chen attacked and shattered it. His flame-covered fist punched while Su Ping quickly sent a sword attack again. Their fight continued. Neither could win. Die, die, die. The longer Yi Chen fought, the more shocked he became. He was already using his real power, and yet he was unable to suppress the boy. Each of the sword's attacks was as powerful as one made by a celestial, and Su Ping was actually launching them consecutively. The old man could tell that Su Ping was burning his vitality. However, it was impossible even for heavenly lords to burn their vitality to overcome the gap and fight a celestial. Roar! Elsewhere, Mo Rai and the Saint King were also using all their methods to suppress Shen Huang. Neither of them held back. That battle would have ended long before if they weren't wary of Shen Huang's dying strike. "Get out of the way," Shen Huang roared. He was covered in blood at the moment while acting like a madman. His golden hair was messy and his armor was cracked. Elder Yan, who had merged with him, was very close to burning up his vitality. He couldn't sustain his prime status any longer, and his strength was declining. That pivoting point was exactly what Mo Rai and the Saint King were waiting for. "Disciple," Shen Huang roared all of a sudden. Su Ping, still fighting Yi Chen, shivered when he heard his master's calling. A rush of conflicting feelings filled his heart. There was so much he owed this master, but he didn't even have a chance to return the favor. "I will give you one last ride. Run using your full strength," Shen Huang roared and unleashed the light of a scorching sun. The void was torn apart and the golden ocean swept over and drowned everyone present. The next moment everybody returned to the sky, above the city of sins from the battleground in the ninth space. Su Ping instantly felt that he was hundreds of times stronger, no longer restricted by the ninth space's pressure. He looked at Shen Huang, only to see that his master was smiling at him in comfort, right in the middle of the golden sun. Su Ping's eyes were tearing up. Am I truly worthy as his disciple? "Run," Shen Huang relayed that soundless message with his lips. Su Ping heard him, but his heart was filled with sadness, as it was impossible to escape. Chapter 1256, Senior Brothers and Sisters 1. Su Ping had regained his combat ability after leaving the ninth space, but Yi Chen and the other Celestials had also been freed from those restrictions and were even stronger. However, Su Ping knew he had to try his best to fulfill his master's last wish. Whoosh! Su Ping ran at full speed, holding back his grief and refraining from looking back. He couldn't waste the chance that his master had created for him, even though it was slim. Escape is impossible for you. Do you really think that the so-called heavenly lords can really escape from celestial experts? Yi Chen traveled through the void and reached Su Ping's back in the blink of an eye. Su Ping quickly turned around and slashed with furious abandon. Yi Chen was quick to react. He shook and was then covered in a devilish aura, which further boosted his powers. "Go to hell." Yi Chen attacked with his full strength, brutality flooding his eyes. Exactly at that moment several attacks were launched towards him. He had foreseen this, but he was still caught unprepared. The devilish mist around him surged, and time flowed at a different speed when inside the mist, giving him more opportunities to react. He blocked all the attacks. He then spread out his perception and saw a few people facing him. "Junior brother, run. Go, we'll cover you." Su Ping heard the voices as he ran. His heart shivered. Then he saw Jai Zuking, Song Yuan and his other senior brothers and sisters further ahead, all of them with concerned eyes. Su Ping didn't know how to describe his feelings. He could only say, "Why are you here? Run, don't die for my sake. You are our junior brother and the pride of the celestial court. You cannot die here." Song Yuan charged towards him and yelled, "Don't waste time, don't have us fight for nothing. You must live on." Su Ping was being scolded, and still he felt as if his heart were being filled with boiling water. He didn't know them very well yet, and still they were standing up for him in such a critical moment. Their devotion made him choke. "We'll be fine, just go. You are their target, they won't waste too much time hunting us. Don't forget that we're all heavenly lords. This won't be our first time escaping from a celestial," said Jai Zuking with a smile. Still, Su Ping saw the determination in her eyes. Even if they were heavenly lords, none of them could resist the furious attack of a celestial. "Junior brother, you're the most talented genius I've ever seen. Keep it up," said Chunyu with a smile. "Junior brother, you will surely illuminate the entire universe in the future. I'm proud to be your senior brother. I will certainly tell everybody that you are my junior brother," Han Yi smiled. "We'll be fine, just run," said Yulong with a smile. Su Ping felt that his blood was flowing in reverse as he looked at their easygoing and calm faces. He didn't know how to describe his feelings. They were indeed his senior brothers and sisters, but they didn't know him well and they were fully aware of the risks if they stayed. Even so, they were willing to stand up for him. Su Ping gritted his teeth and flew past them without a word. Nobody could see the expression on his face. Song Yuan and the others were relieved once they saw him fly away. Their main fear was that he would be too emotional and straight up decide to fight by their side. That would be against their wishes. They had chosen to stay because they wanted to keep a glimmer of hope for the celestial court. Otherwise, the celestial court would surely be ripped apart in the coming universal turmoil, and nobody would be able to survive. "I'm proud to have you as my juniors," said Song Yuan as he looked at Jai Zuking and the others, noticing peace and a casual demeanor when he saw their faces. He was somehow excited. Their situation was dire, but he didn't feel desperate at all. Rather, he was quite motivated. "Senior brother, don't say that," Han Yi chuckled. Jai Zuking slightly changed her expression and said, "He's here." FCK off. The mist surged and Yi Chen revealed himself. He looked at Song Yuan and the others who were in his way, so infuriated that his face was contorted. "You think you pieces of garbage can hold me back? FCK off right now." He swung his fist with brutality as he roared, unleashing his original small universe. The sky above the city of sins seemed to be quaking. Countless laws were torn apart. A black trace was left in the dark space. All substances touching that trace were obliterated. Song Yuan changed his expression and said quickly, "Dodge." Everybody moved swiftly and dispersed. However, Yi Chen's punch was extremely powerful and fast. Yulong was hit by its edge and was instantly flung away, vomiting a mouthful of blood. "Block him!" Song Yuan roared and used his triple fusion. He also summoned a warship from his Ascendant State world and activated the vessel's AI to lock onto the target and initiate the self-destruction sequence. It was a top SSS-rated warship in the Federation. Any of its cannons could have easily destroyed a Tier 1 planet. It would take less than 90 seconds to destroy a solar system with that warship. Such a benchmark had been professionally tested by the Federation. However, a warship of such power was at the moment sailing towards Yi Chen while bombarding him. It was even faster than Song Yuan and the others, and could compare to a celestial expert. Chapter 1257, Senior Brothers and Sisters 2. Yi Chen sensed the threat and punched furiously to fight back. Dark waves surged out of his body, only to be neutralized by the materials on the warship's lining. Yi Chen's expression changed a bit. He attempted to teleport the warship to another time and space. However, the Tao patterns on the ship's surface dispelled his secret technique, and the ship stayed course as it sailed toward him. Bang! An enormous explosion burst out. Yi Chen was drowned by it. A tiny black hole appeared in the void, swallowing all substances around him at a crazy rate. The massive explosion continued to spread throughout the entire Mayhem Star Zone. All the residents in the City of Sins heard the noise coming from somewhere right above their heads. Countless people craned their heads to look up out their windows. However, only those who were exceptionally strong could see the battle in the high sky. "Watch out!" Song Yuan was quite stern when he saw Yi Chen disappear. Naturally, he didn't think that a celestial could be killed in the crash. Otherwise, the celestial state would only be a shameless realm. Right after crying out a warning, a pair of enormous hands extended from his back and clutched his neck. The hands exerted strength. Boom! Song Yuan's head instantly exploded, his body became still. Han Yi narrowed his eyes and roared, "Senior brother!" He rushed towards him. "Get lost!" Yi Chen turned around, and one of his eyes shot a beam of black light that flung Han Yi back. His chest collapsed as if having been rammed by something. His body began to decay at a fast pace. Whoosh! Yi Chen suddenly disappeared. Instead of following up to attack Han Yi, he broke out of their encirclement and kept chasing after the fleeing Su Ping. "Stop him," Jai Zuking said in a hurry. Her attack range was too short to be of use. Exactly at that moment a brilliant sword aura passed by. It was from Chunyu, their second senior brother. His weapon illuminated the entire space. Yi Chen was cut by the sword. His face was cold, but he ignored his injured arm and kept charging at Su Ping. Chunyu's expression looked awful. He didn't expect that the enemy would be so determined to kill Su Ping that he would ignore his attack. Such an attack was strong enough to wound a celestial and make it impossible for them to recover right then. "Damn it, the gap between us is too huge." Yu Long, who was getting ready to attack, found that the guy had already passed him and it would be impossible to catch up. His face became contorted. Further ahead, Su Ping sensed the freezing coldness on his back while he ran. He slashed furiously with his sword, not looking back. Still, his sword was clenched the next moment and Yi Chen's scary face moved closer. "Run, just keep on running. Nobody can possibly save your life today. Anyone who offends me dies. I will refine your soul and turn you into my eternal puppet." While feeling the enormous force clutching his sword, Su Ping kicked his enemy and separated them. He glanced back and was relieved to see that Jai Zuking and the others were fine. The enemy had caught up with him, but he didn't feel sad after seeing that Jai Zuking and the others were fine. "You want to go home and cultivate to exact vengeance later. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance." Yi Chen sneered and charged at Su Ping again. His body expanded to more than 10 meters tall. His body was infinite power. He was almost on the top tier of the celestial state. After all, his goal was to become a universe dominator. A body made of Tao patterns. Su Ping's heart was heavy. That was a powerful constitution, much better than the 10 divine constitutions of the Federation. The best bodies carried Tao patterns and even Tao glyphs like his. Whoosh! Yi Chen's arm transformed into a giant axe that slashed at Su Ping. Su Ping also swung his sword with his full strength. The axe and the sword clashed. Su Ping's arm trembled and he felt that he had gone against a rocket. The terrifying blast numbed his arm. Yi Chen's eyes were even colder after discovering that he was only a little better than Su Ping in terms of physical strength. Seriously, he was a celestial. Even though it hadn't been long since he inherited his new body, he had already modified it with countless outstanding materials. And yet, he was only slightly stronger than Su Ping. The situation was unbelievable for him. "Die, die!" Yi Chen attacked fiercely. The axe marks lingered in the void for a long time. Their effect made it impossible for the void to heal. The void was filled by sword and axe marks as they fought. Every one of their collisions made buildings tremble in the City of Sins. "Our junior brother is so strong." Jai Zuking and the others caught up and wanted to help, only to be shocked by the fierce battle. They had tried their best to stop Yi Chen, knowing how terrifying the celestial expert was. All of them were speechless as they saw their junior fight head-to-head with the guy. Is our junior brother really just a Star Lord? They wouldn't have believed him, even if he claimed he was an ascendant. The battlefield grew as they fought. The energy from the blasts was flowing outward. Some axe auras cut buildings to pieces, while some of the sword auras darted through the buildings. Their heated battle made it difficult to control themselves, and they were destroying the environment. No, our junior brother is burning his vitality. He cannot stay in that status for long. Chunyu realized what was going on, and he clenched his sword tightly. We must figure out a way to hold him back. Let's set up our military formation. Jai Zuking turned around and saw that Song Yuan was dashing over. His head had been blown up earlier on. Fortunately, he had a special life-saving technique and managed to survive. However, he was clearly in a weakened state at the moment. He heard Jai Zuking's proposal and nodded, then said to Chunyu, "You will control the formation." Chunyu took the helm. Everybody quickly went about the formation setup, their power fusing and turning into a dozen-meters-tall giant that marched towards the battlefield. Yi Chen instantly felt pressure when the formation giant stepped in, becoming even more furious. I've used almost all my methods except for my trump card, and yet I'm still unable to defeat Su Ping. He found it impossible to accept. Get the hell out of here. Yi Chen roared and punched crazily, but he was suppressed by Chunyu's military formation and Su Ping's attacks. He wasn't winning. Junior brother, run. We can hold him back, said Song Yuan while inside the formation. Su Ping sobered up, gritting his teeth as he knew he couldn't keep that status for too long. Even though he could fight a celestial state, the price was too dear and he couldn't fight for extended periods. Even the enhancement of 8 small worlds couldn't make up for the gap of 2 major realms. Take care. Su Ping turned around and fled after replying. He knew the hope he was carrying on his shoulders. It was actually more painful for him to flee without looking back than to stay and fight. You can't escape, said a chilly-sounding voice right then. Hardly had Su Ping turned around when he saw a cold face in front of him. It belonged to Mo Rai. At the same time, something cold plunged into his chest. Su Ping felt that his heart stopped beating. The freezing cold, with the power of separation, made him lower his head and see. It seemed to have sucked his blood. The sword's edge became red. Mo Rai exclaimed in astonishment upon seeing that. He was thrilled, as he could tell that the spirit in his weapon was reviving. The spirit had regained its consciousness in the previous battle. The consciousness was expanding at the moment. He could hear a voice in his head calling out to him. The voice was extremely thirsty. This brat's blood. Mo Rai looked at Su Ping, surprised and delighted. This trip was totally worth it. Kid, I will gladly take your soul and your body. 2. Su Ping breathed heavily. He punched fiercely, revealing the original 8 small worlds on his fist. That was his most powerful attack. He aimed to smash his fist into Mo Rai's face. Chapter 1258. The Skeleton's Rise to the Ascendant State 1. Mo Rai slightly changed his expression, then raised his hand to block the attack. Dao patterns gathered in his hand like a vortex. However, they were penetrated by Su Ping's fist and shattered the next moment. The violent force ripped his entire arm apart. Whoosh! Mo Rai was flung backwards in shock, as Su Ping was more powerful than he had imagined. Is the guy truly a Star Lord? He thought that Yi Chen was deliberating, buying himself more time as he saw them fight, all to avoid Shen Huang's dying strike. He just realized that Yi Chen wasn't playing tricks. It was because the brat was truly unusual. Su Ping approached his limits after forcing Mo Rai to retreat. His aura plummeted and he couldn't even pretend to be tough any longer. His weakness was revealed. The wound on his chest quickly began to spread out since his power was no longer suppressing the sword's effect. The Dao patterns and laws embedded in the wound were destroying Su Ping's body. Su Ping held back the excruciating pain. He tore the void open and charged to the distance. Become nutrition for my saber. Mo Rai realized that Su Ping wasn't pretending. He dashed over after the initial shock, and his blazing nether saber slashed down. Su Ping stopped abruptly and was forced out of the void. The blazing saber approached his head, its fire reflected in his eyes. Was he truly unable to go any further? Stubbornness emanated from Su Ping's eyes. He would admit defeat if he were to be the only one to die that day. After all, he had been through countless battles, and he was already prepared to die. Countless geniuses had perished before they could grow up, and he shouldn't be an exception. However, his master, Song Yuan, and the others were going to be killed because of him. He didn't want that to happen. He didn't want to fall before he had the chance to avenge them. Whoosh! His body turned all of a sudden, dodging the saber in a weird posture. Meanwhile, he raised his hand and invoked a stream of power that pushed Mo Rai back. He moved with the counterforce. Mo Rai was shocked and suspicious. He could tell that Su Ping was running out of strength. How can he still be so strong? Su Ping was equally stunned. Then he sensed some thoughts transmitted to his head. He couldn't help but lower his head, only to see flesh gathering on his chest wound. Then a head craned out of it. It belonged to the young chaos beast. Master, I'll sustain the wound and stop him for you. Just run. The young chaos beast spoke with the voice of a little boy. Su Ping instantly realized what was going on. His eyes were brimming with tears. He had merged with the young chaos beast, and the latter was voluntarily canceling the fusion and transferring the wound unto itself to endure it in his place. I'm your master. I should be the one protecting you. Boss, go. We've got this. The Inferno Dragon's voice also resounded in his head, no longer as obedient and funny as per usual. It was solemn and serious instead. It was clear that the pet knew it was an unusually critical battle. Su Ping watched the young chaos beast break free from him and bit his lip. He recalled everything that happened on the blue planet. The Inferno Dragon had once sacrificed itself too to protect him, and so did the Dark Dragon Hound. Was it the young chaos beast's turn? Still, there truly was no chance for him to turn things around and rescue them this time. I promised that I would protect you. Even if you stay, you can't stop him for long. You should be the ones to escape. You've all been well trained by me. Even though your bloodlines were humble at the beginning, you all have a chance of rising to the celestial state and even higher. Especially you. Su Ping spoke with determination in his eyes as he looked at the young chaos beast's head protruding from his chest. Considering your ultimate chaos bloodline, it should be easy for you to grow and become an ancestral god in the future. You shouldn't die here. Master Yu. The young chaos beast was surprised. It sensed that the wound was being transferred back to Su Ping. He was returning the favor. But Master, we'll lose our contract and our memories of you if the contract is destroyed. We won't remember that we need to avenge you, cried the Inferno Dragon, feeling despair. I will engrave Tao patterns on you. Even if you forget, you will still have a chance to avenge me in the future. Su Ping's voice calmed down. He was unwilling to fall. He would have no chance to exact vengeance. However, he could only entrust the responsibility to the young chaos beast and the others. They were all the most excellent pets in Su Ping's eyes, with the best bloodlines in the world. They would surely exceed the celestial state. What a shame. I promised that I would turn you into the strongest dragon ever. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep that promise. I hope you won't blame me, said Su Ping to the Inferno Dragon with a solemn voice. They had been communicating telepathically, and it was done in an instant. The Inferno Dragon realized what Su Ping implied. That magnificent and ferocious dragon wept like a kid. I don't want to become the strongest dragon. I simply want to be your dragon forever. Master, please do. Fear emanated from the chaos beast's black eyes. Su Ping's control was greater when they were fused. Its power was increasing as Su Ping's body withdrew the damaged flesh and sent his remaining power into his pet's body. Chapter 1259. The skeletons rise to the ascendant state too. Su Ping would have to endure the wound all by himself in such a way. Su Ping took a deep breath and made a decision. Today, I will cancel all your contracts. I hope that you'll live a good life. He had engraved the vengeance plan on both the Inferno Dragon and the young Chaos Beast with Tao patterns. It wouldn't decay unless they purposefully erased it. Whoosh! Exactly at that moment, Mo Rai went after them again. Su Ping and the young chaos beast had only communicated for a few seconds. Mo Rai, being a cautious man, had been keenly observing. He saw that something was changing inside the young man's body and was unaware if it would work in his favor. Since the matter was unpredictable, he simply charged and launched his ultimate attack. "Master!" the young chaos beast roared with shock and fury. Su Ping watched Mo Rai charge at him. He took a deep breath. He was going to dispel the fusion and fight with the last bit of strength he had to buy more time for his pets. But then a white figure flashed before his eyes. Bang! A black saber aura surged and cut space apart, eclipsing the entire world. Everything had been wrapped in darkness, just like the coming of night time. The little skeleton, a bundle of white bones, had somehow broken free from the pet space and emerged in front of Su Ping. That terrifying saber aura belonged to this pet. Mo Rai sensed a little bit of danger and moved back quickly, instead of resisting it head-on. He looked at the undead creature in surprise. Just like Su Ping, it was a Star Lord. However, that previous attack was definitely powerful enough to hurt a celestial. What kind of freakish man and pet duo are they? Su Ping was just as shocked as Mo Rai. He never summoned the little skeleton, and he didn't know how it broke free from the pet space, completely violating the pet contract. "Sorry, I left some of my bone powder in your body when I was attached to you. That's why I can transfer myself out of the contract space," said the little skeleton apologetically as it turned its head with cracking noises toward Su Ping. It didn't seem used to talking. It had always been the quietest one back at the store. It would be either sleeping on a bed or on its feet. It always listened quietly when others talked. Nobody knew whether it was sleeping or listening, especially not by looking at its empty eye sockets. Su Ping was dazed for a moment, not having realized his pet had taken such measures. "Why did you do that?" "I was afraid that something would happen to you, so I did it without asking." The little skeleton's voice was still apologetic and sincere. Su Ping said with wet eyes, "I don't blame you. Whatever you do, I would never blame you." I know." The little skeleton raised its head and looked at Mo Rai, who was determined to kill them. It spoke solemnly, "Master, I can buy you more time. You can unleash that lazy dog too. Both of us can buy you more time. In any case, please survive." Su Ping realized its intent. He changed his expression and said furiously, "No, you must leave immediately. I will cancel your contract right now. From now on, you're not my pets anymore." "Master," the Inferno Dragon cried aloud. The young Chaos Beast said with a pitiful voice, "Master, do." The little skeleton, the most obedient thus far, was silent at the moment. Black devilish auras surged out of its body and contaminated the space. Such a cover made the pet look like a skeleton king that had just stepped out of hell. "Master." The little skeleton's voice was still hoarse, but its every word pierced Su Ping's heart. "You might not know this, but the time and memories with you are much more important to us than our own lives." Su Ping's blood seemed to have solidified. His body shivered beyond control. He asked with an unsteady voice, "Why? I've always trained you so hard." "But you're always the first to heal us when we're wounded," roared the Inferno Dragon, laden by grief. "That's right. You always left the best food for me," said the young Chaos Beast, teary-eyed. The little skeleton said in a low voice, "You turned me from an ordinary skeleton into what I am today. You gave me consciousness and feelings, letting me see this world. You gave me a chance to see flowers and grass." "Focus," a voice interrupted the little skeleton, and Mo Rai dashed toward them. His nether saber slashed down with multiple Dao patterns. Time and space were torn apart. A dazzling red glittered in the sky above the City of Sins. The red light was as bright as the sun. Countless people felt that their eyes stung when they saw it. The little skeleton, however, quickly stepped out. All of its bones cracked as it suddenly expanded, becoming almost 8 meters tall when it used to barely reach Su Ping's waist in the beginning. Its previously slim bones became thick and scary. Sharp stings grew out of its ribs and blade bones. It was as horrifying as the king of the undead. Bang! The little skeleton drew the bone saber on its waist and attacked fiercely, unleashing a scorching brilliance. 7 small worlds were gathered on the edge. 3 of the 7 small worlds collapsed after a single strike. However, the little skeleton didn't back off. It stood in front of Su Ping like an iron wall, preventing him from being hurt. He didn't even feel any wind. "Master, I will rise to the ascendant state for you today. Please go." The little skeleton's voice became hoarse and dry, as if coming from the abyss, quite different from the innocent, kid-like voice of the past. He couldn't have been more intimidating at the moment, and all to protect Su Ping. Intense and ancient devilish auras were mixed with some sort of power and emitted by its body. In the meantime, dark clouds appeared in the sky above the city of sins and gathered from somewhere in the void. A blood-curdling aura filled up the world. Su Ping was dazed, not expecting that the little skeleton would choose to rise to the ascendant state right then. He remembered that his bony pet had found dozens of routes to the ascendant state in the cultivation sites, and a couple of them were quite powerful. However, the little skeleton abandoned them all, thinking that a better one could be found. It was obvious that time was of the essence. It planned to choose one of the found routes and rise to the ascendant state. In Su Ping's perspective, the little skeleton had chosen to abandon its future. Boom! Terrifying thunder was rumbling. The little skeleton was immediately enshrouded in the realm of the heavenly tribulation. Morai changed his expression in shock. His eyes didn't deceive him. The pet was truly just a star lord. "It's rising to the ascendant state at this moment. Damn it, what kind of bone is that? Why is it so hard?" Morai looked at his nether saber. The spirit inside the saber sent him a shivering feeling when it clashed with the little skeleton's weapon, as if scared. The weapon of a universe dominator is scared of a bone. Exactly at that moment a roar echoed as Yi Chen dashed closer. "What are you waiting for? Kill them all and disrupt the heavenly tribulation." He charged at the little skeleton which was about to go through the tribulation. Morai frowned in silence. He also charged at full speed, unwilling to watch that strong skeleton rise to the ascendant state. It was already powerful beyond belief while still a star lord. What would happen when it rose to the ascendant state? Su Ping was compelled to look back when he heard Yi Chen's orders, only to see that Song Yuan and the others were scattered in the void. Their enormous pets were next to them, but the creatures were either mutilated or sliced into pieces. There was a river of blood. "Senior brothers and sisters." Su Ping felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. His blood froze. Bang! Yi Chen and Mo Rai attacked at the same time. One of them charged at the little skeleton, while the other aimed for Su Ping. Chapter 1260, Self-Destruction 1. "Master, you must live on," the little skeleton's voice cried out. His magnificent figure stepped forward. The once tiny creature in the past stood in front of Su Ping like a towering tree. The soul-stirring heavenly tribulation gathered in the sky above like a bloody and brown-colored waterfall. The overwhelming tribulation aura gave pause to the two celestials, not expecting to see the rare, bloody heavenly tribulation in that place. The people in the city of sins, as well as the ascendants from the other star zones, were all invested as they observed the battle from a distance, too shocked for words. A bloody tribulation had already occurred earlier on. Now it was happening again, but dyed with a deeper color. It was almost similar to the legendary dark, world-destroying heavenly tribulation. And yet, it was a tribulation invoked by a pet. Bang! Mo Rai's attack brutally launched an attack to strike the little skeleton, regardless of the tribulation's effect. The bony pet roared and its head was extremely scary. Bloody flames burned in its eye sockets. Those were its pupils, like immortal spiritual flames. Bang! The tribulation was shattered, and Mo Rai's attack was blocked by a swing of its bone saber. In another place, Yi Chen was going to attack his target from the side, but then a dark wall appeared in his way. Many pale and hideous arms sprouted from the wall as they tried to pull him in. Beyond the wall was the aura of another world. It seemed to be an opening to the netherworld. Yi Chen slightly changed his expression in shock. Su Ping's pet was too ferocious. It had such power even while it was barely to break through to the ascendant state. "Master, just go," the Inferno Dragon called out in Su Ping's head. Su Ping was stunned. He looked at the little skeleton currently blocking all attacks going his way. For the first time, he felt that the kid he had been protecting had grown up. His eyes were teary, reflecting the comfort, relief, and sadness he felt. He gave a slight head shake and said to the Inferno Dragon, "I'm done running. You will avenge me. Your contracts will be automatically canceled when I die, and you'll be released to random places in the universe. You must live well." His energy became disorderly throughout his body as he spoke. The fused Inferno Dragon and the young Chaos Beast were separated from him against their wishes. "Master Do." The Inferno Dragon's eyes widened. That ferocious creature was wreathed in fear at the moment. The young Chaos Beast's eyes were too wide open. It quickly hugged Su Ping and shouted, "I'm not going. I'm not going. Even if I must die, I will die with you." Su Ping was like a parent. Su Ping smiled as he felt their affection, and then summoned the pet space. He commanded them with the power of their contracts. "No!" The Inferno Dragon roared. The contract flames were burning him, causing an excruciating pain. His soul was burning and withering too. The young Chaos Beast was also reluctant. It was ablaze with contract flames, but it was still unwilling to let Su Ping go. "You must be obedient." Su Ping couldn't help but fly into a rage, while tears flowed. "I'm not listening," roared the Inferno Dragon. The young Chaos Beast followed. "Me neither." Su Ping tried to push the young Chaos Beast away, only to find that it was too strong. He was too weak at the moment because he had transferred all the damage unto himself earlier and couldn't push his pet away. The Inferno Dragon lowered its proud head and implored humbly, "I will rise to the ascendant state too. Master, we will surely buy enough time for you. You must live on. I'm begging you." Su Ping gritted his teeth and said furiously, "Stop making a scene." The Inferno Dragon didn't reply. It turned around and rushed to the little skeleton's side, his stance indicating that it would fight until the end. The contract flames were burning its blood and soul fiercely. The dragon was shaking, but it stood firm. Su Ping could only see its stubborn back. "You!" Su Ping didn't think he would be unable to make him obey at such a crucial moment. He was overwhelmed with the pain he felt. "It's not worth it. This is not worth it. Why are you so unruly?" As the young Chaos Beast did the same, moving to join the skeleton. Its chubby body was trembling in pain, but it said proudly, "There's no way that you can leave me behind. I will not let anything happen to you, even at the cost of my own life. Your pets are rather stupid." Yi Chen was in a daze while seeing how those two pets were protecting Su Ping, despite the contract penalty. He soon recovered, now with unusual grimness and fury. Once he had his own loyal partners too. However, those partners defected when he was in danger. Su Ping's pets were willing to fight alongside him until the last moment, despite the punishment for violating their contracts. Why are they so different? He wouldn't have corrupted and later fallen to become a devil. Yi Chen roared and swept his arm, which had turned into a battle axe. It smashed into the dark wall, cutting the protruding arms. Half of the axe was embedded into the wall. Chapter 1261, Self-Destruction 2. The little skeleton's body shook, but the flames in its eyes burned even brighter. A gate opened in the void behind him. Thousands of skeleton knights holding bronze spears charged out and moved towards the two celestials like well-trained troops. At the same time, the bloody heavenly tribulation descended and wreathed the skeleton in a lightning hell. Su Ping clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He suddenly dashed out. His weakened and heavily wounded body unleashed an immense power. His 8 small worlds appeared like wheels of light. Then, the first small world collapsed. Su Ping's aura rose to the peak while filled by the exuberant power. That was the strongest condition he had ever been in. He then extended his hands and forcefully threw both the Inferno Dragon and young Chaos Beast into the pet space. "I won't let you die." Su Ping's eyes were firm and cold. He stepped forward and stood next to the little skeleton. He said softly while looking at the red flames in his pet eyes, "You should go inside too once the tribulation is over. I will protect you this time. I am certain that you will avenge me in the future." The red flames in the little skeleton's eyes hopped unpredictably as if buffeted by the wind. It said hoarsely, "Master, please don't do this. Be obedient." Su Ping smiled with the unusual affection in his eyes. He gently waved his hands and said, "Focus on your tribulation. I will protect you." He then stepped forward. Gales were blowing in the void, making Su Ping's hair flutter. Dark cracks appeared as he moved. The void seemed to be falling apart under his feet. "I haven't reached the ascendant state yet, but I can still fight you with my Star Lord level." Su Ping's voice was soft but extremely cold. His gentle and affectionate eyes turned as sharp as the edge of a sword. He gazed at the two celestials with glacial intent. The next moment, the small world behind him exploded. This time it was the eighth small world, the last one and the most powerful he had cultivated. "It doesn't matter if I can't embark on an unprecedented path. I can still fight you with 7 small worlds when I rise to the ascendant state." An indescribable stream of power surged out as his small world exploded, then dissipated as consumed by a black hole. The entire world fell quiet at that moment. An ancient and distant aura emanated from Su Ping's body. Such an aura belonged to the ancient mythical creatures gone ages before. It was the original power of the universe when it was created. Mo Rai and Yi Chen slightly changed their expressions as they looked at Su Ping with shock and suspicion. The man was only a Star Lord, and yet they still found him threatening at the moment. The little skeleton immediately realized what Su Ping was doing. It couldn't help but shout coarsely, "Master." Su Ping was going to follow the skeleton's steps. He was going to rise to the ascendant state. However, he wasn't choosing the optimal way, but the next best thing. Su Ping had chosen to detonate the 8th small world and rise to the ascendant state with 7 small worlds. It was impossible to have a normal breakthrough with 8 small worlds. He could only lower the bar. At least he would be stronger with the advance. He would then be capable of fighting them. Since he was dying, why bother thinking about potential and prospects? Su Ping quickly condensed a path to the ascendant state as the painstakingly created 8th small world collapsed. There was an instant effect. He sensed that heaven and earth were calling to him. The calling of the ascendant state. Have the heavens finally acknowledged me? Well, well. There was sadness and mockery in Su Ping's eyes. Not once did he sense a thing when he had 8 small worlds, but now it was possible, after destroying one of them. "It's a shame that I don't have enough time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cared one bit about your acknowledgement." Su Ping gave an ominous look at the gathering clouds. Brown lightning could be vaguely seen among the dark red clouds. He glanced at the two celestials with a cold smile. "Come and fight me. You're asking to be killed." Both Yi Chen and Mo Rai had grim expressions. They had been more or less doubtful about Su Ping's level earlier on. After all, for a Star Lord that strong to exist was impossible. However, the tribulation proved that Su Ping's level was real. A Star Lord stronger than any heavenly lord. And now he was rising to the ascendant state. "You must die." Mo Rai's eyes were as sharp as sabers. He summoned 2 enormous pets. One of them was a shining and colorful dragon, while the other was a bird whose wings carried a deathly aura. They charged at Su Ping. Both were celestial pets, but they were clearly not as strong as their master. The tribulation became even more violent as they entered the fray. Bloody lightning bolts struck the 2 creatures, but were blocked easily. Even the bloody lightning bolts could cause them little damage, given their level. "Get lost." Su Ping wasn't relying on the tribulation's power. He suddenly roared like thunder, not only taunting those pets, but also the heavenly tribulation. He wasn't interested in such a test. The packed clouds surged and seemed to be dissipating after the roar. However, a pillar of lightning struck down as if ready to pierce the earth, seemingly gathering the power of all the lightning bolts. The entire world was illuminated for a moment. The people who witnessed that from the City of Sins even forgot to breathe. Their hearts skipped a beat, thinking that such a lightning strike was enough to raise the entire city. Bang! Su Ping was struck heavily, his head lowered a bit due to the lightning's power. However, he struggled to raise his head and absorb the tribulation's power. His body went through a rapid evolution. However, Su Ping was well aware that he would barely be able to defend himself with ascendant power and 7 small worlds when facing 2 celestials. Killing them was out of the question. His power would be insufficient. Bang! The worlds behind Su Ping's back exploded, one by one, from the second small world to the 5th. The noise from the blasts shocked the world. What followed was the rise of Su Ping's terrifying aura, making him look like a mythical creature. He suddenly drew his sword and slashed at Yi Chen. His horrifying sword was filled with the power of 3 Tao glyphs. He had been unable to make use of them, and had to make do by parsing them into Tao patterns. Now, though, he was able to harness the power of 3 primitive Tao glyphs at the same time. A storm of sword auras was swept out. Somehow time and space in all the universe seemed to have solidified. Sword auras fell and eclipsed all the stars. Yi Chen widened his eyes in disbelief. Bang, 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 bang. A golden bell flew out of Yi Chen's body and collapsed. A tiger-shaped soul rushed out of his armor and roared, only to be destroyed by the unstoppable sword auras. The sword slash reached his chest in the end. Blood gushed out and the armor was shattered. Yi Chen was sent flying hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. He vanished as a black spot, his status unknown. Mo Rai was appalled. He saw that Su Ping swung his sword again and launched another attack that was equally terrifying. He quickly waved his sleeves, and 3 illusory black holes appeared around him. The sword auras destroyed 2 of them, but were twisted in front of the 3rd and brushed past Mo Rai, unable to hit him. There was a boom. The City of Sins ground was torn apart, turning into an infinitely stretching ravine. Countless buildings were destroyed, with endless casualties. That brat! Mo Rai looked at the ravine and slightly narrowed his eyes. He took a deep breath, knowing that it would be hard to get rid of Su Ping without using his real skills. As a dark and round small universe appeared, Mo Rai's aura was multiple times stronger. The nether saber in his hand was radiating power. There seemed to be a red python charging at Su Ping. Master Du! The little skeleton's hoarse voice echoed behind Su Ping. In the next moment, along with the bloody light, the little skeleton suddenly passed Su Ping and slashed the red python's head. Chapter 1262, World-Destroying Heavenly Tribulation 1. There's no turning back. Su Ping's eyes were gentle as he looked at how the little skeleton had forced Mo Rai to step back. He easily overtook his pet as if he were illusionary, then charged at the retreating Mo Rai. Bang! His terrifying sword auras were swept forth. Bolts of tribulation lightning struck ahead from the sword path and were instantly cut off. The sword auras weren't weakened in the slightest. They continued their way towards Mo Rai. The latter was shocked and infuriated. He gathered 3 more black holes to shatter the sword auras, but he was pushed thousands of meters back. Mo Rai felt humiliated, noticing how Su Ping had the strength to fight him while dealing with the bloody heavenly tribulation. My strength is not enough. Su Ping's body cracked. His more than 10 meters body rose again to almost 20 meters. His aura was as heavy as a mountain, and his hairs were like thick ropes. Steam coming out from his muscles as a terrifying power was being accumulated. Bang! Another small world exploded behind Su Ping, making the world shake like a drum. Su Ping's power rose yet again. Even Mo Rai was a little bit frightened. Su Ping took a deep breath while feeling his overflowing and explosive power. He was going to attack to heavily wound his enemy. Exactly at that moment, a rumbling thunder resounded. That thunder came from a place in the eternal time and space, echoing in the sky above the entire mayhem star zone. Next, all the light in the City of Sins was gone. It seemed as if there were a curtain covering all the stars in the universe. The formerly dissipating clouds after Su Ping's roar were gathering once more. even covering the little skeleton's clouds. Those clouds were extremely thick, heavy and vast, with dark lightning bolts glittering within. It was the world-destroying heavenly tribulation that only existed in legends. All the ascendant practitioners in the Mayhem Star Zone were wide-eyed, overtaken by disbelief. The visitors from other star zones who had vied for the legacy were also looking at the scenery with shock, including top heavenly lords such as Liu Xia and Jaime. The dark tribulation of the ascendant. State. It is said to be lethal. Nobody has ever survived it. This has only been recounted in tales. Whoever invokes a dark heavenly tribulation is an ominous eccentric and is bound to be destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. They cannot be allowed to live. The guy attracted a world-destroying tribulation, as expected of a star lord with heavenly lord might. Do you have to be this talented in order to cause this phenomenon? The ascendants from all star zones were shocked. Although many of them didn't know Su Ping, they couldn't help but admire him. He managed to hold on while being chased by a celestial, a man with star lord level. He invoked a world-destroying heavenly tribulation. Even if Su Ping were to die, his tales and legends would be sung for 100,000 years. He would be remembered by all those present as an insurmountable mountain. He truly is an unparalleled genius. Jaime looked up at the sky. They stood by the tribulation's edge, but they could still feel the terrifying destructive aura, much more threatening than the bloody tribulation earlier on. It felt as if a god above were coldly looking down at them, just like ants. Even though he was an enemy, Jaime felt lost, overwrought with conflicting emotions. Boom! The heavenly tribulation progressed, releasing an aura of destruction. The black lightning bolts seemed able to swallow all laws and Tao patterns. It was breathtaking to see them moving across the clouds. Su Ping paused and felt slightly threatened. He looked up at the sky, not expecting to feel that way because of a tribulation. He had ample experience since he had endured many tribulations back in the cultivation sites. It was as easy as eating or drinking, because he was much stronger than his peers. The previous bloody tribulation merely imposed a bit of pressure onto him. He could even fight a celestial in the meantime. He had almost dispelled that tribulation with a single roar. However, he was at the moment feeling that something ominous was behind the current tribulation, observing and locking onto him in the clouds. Are they the so-called heavens? Su Ping narrowed his eyes, filled with brutality. He had been unable to gain the heavens' acknowledgement with 8 small worlds, and now the dark world-destroying tribulation had arrived. Not even the heavens weren't sparing him during that desperate situation. Bang! Without any warning, a black lightning bolt descended from the clouds. Su Ping's expression changed somewhat as he furiously slashed upwards. The Chaos Sword auras tore time and space to then destroy the lightning bolt, but the attack wasn't completely successful. The sword attack was corrupted, quickly fading away. The remaining power of the lightning bolt reached Su Ping and struck brutally. He felt that he had been struck 1,000,000 times. A strong sensation of tearing and shaking was spread to every inch of his skin and his every cell. He almost vomited blood in shock. That tribulation was too powerful, hundreds of times more than the bloody heavenly tribulation. It's a world-destroying heavenly tribulation. Mo Rai was rather dazzled too, as he witnessed the event under the dark clouds. It was completely unexpected to see that Su Ping would invoke such a legendary and unprecedented phenomenon. Chapter 1263, World-Destroying Heavenly Tribulation 2. Mo Rai had barely summoned a bloody heavenly tribulation during his ascendant breakthrough. Was the talent difference between him and Su Ping that large? Unfortunately, you have to die, no matter what sort of genius you are. Students with top scores aren't necessarily the most successful, and geniuses won't necessarily become the strongest either. You must be lucky and clever so you can rise. Mo Rai's eyes were cold. He raised his weapon and charged at Su Ping again, swinging the nether saber. Exactly at that moment, a black lightning bolt fell abruptly and smashed his body. Mo Rai's expression revealed shock. He quickly swung his blade to resist, only to be pushed thousands of meters back. His body shivered. Was I considered his helper? Is this the power of a world-destroying heavenly tribulation? It's almost as powerful as a celestial strike with full force. Mo Rai was shocked. He also realized why few people had survived a tribulation of that caliber. How could a Star Lord resist those powerful lightning bolts? Whoosh! In the distance, Yi Chen was flying back after being knocked away by Su Ping. He was blushing furiously. A celestial like him had been sent flying by Su Ping. It was humiliating. He tore time and space to return quickly, and was hit by a black lightning bolt as he was getting ready to attack the young man. Damn it! Yi Chen instantly realized that he too was considered as Su Ping's helper. It was impossible for him to explain. The tribulation terrified him. He was no longer as ready to attack. But how could he wait while Su Ping finished going through his tribulation? Don't worry, I don't think he can survive it. The tribulation has only just begun. Mo Rai approached him and dismissed his power, all to avoid being noticed by the tribulation. Yi Chen was gloomy. That kid is backed by the magic store. What if he has some ultimate life-saving treasure? He's already too strong with a Star Lord level, if he reaches the ascendant state. He trailed off, but Mo Rai understood what he meant. His feelings were a mess. Su Ping would probably become a threat, even to Celestials, if he broke through. Such an idea would have been taken as a joke in the past, but Su Ping had challenged their common sense and worked miracles time and again. Neither of them dared to underestimate him. He won't last long, since he was wounded by my nether saber. We can't attack him, but we can disturb him in other ways, said Mo Rai. Yi Chen's eyes glittered. With everything coming to that point, it was the only thing they could do. Su Ping embraced his second lightning strike, while those two considered how to interfere. The attack was 30% stronger. Su Ping detected the aura of death. The power was comparable to the attack of a celestial expert with their small universe. He was forced to detonate another small world, and with it unleashing a stream of power. His sword auras became more dazzling than the stars, and he slashed the lightning strike. The remains of the lightning bolt didn't disperse. They instead surrounded him like a web, and he soon felt as if he were in a swamp. His every cell was torn apart and destroyed. Su Ping gritted his teeth and attempted to reassemble his cells. His body was continuously destroyed and regenerated. The process was repeated hundreds of times until the lightning's power faded. Su Ping now felt that his body was much harder. The astral vortices inside his cells were much more condensed. The stars in his body also became more solid. They're having second thoughts about attacking. Su Ping noticed Mo Rai and Yi Chen's passive stance and raised his eyebrows. He instantly figured out what was going on. The tribulation itself was unexpectedly lending him a hand, in a way. If that was the case, he only had to go through the tribulation and break through to the ascendant state. He could fight them afterwards. It's a shame that I couldn't take a path as I planned. On the other hand, how did I invoke a black world-destroying tribulation with 7 small worlds? Was there a misjudgment because I detonated my small worlds? Su Ping's eyes glittered. However, a sharp soul blade pierced into his brain before he could give it more thought. He instantly realized who the attacker was. He roared in his mind space, condensing a hellish skeleton demon to crush the blade. The power of the soul race coexisted with the primitive Chaos clan bloodline in his body. He was especially talented when it came to soul techniques, and was even able to resist celestial attacks. Damn it! Mo Rai grunted in shock. Su Ping's soul power is even greater than mine. How is that possible? The kid hasn't lived more than a century, while I'm a celestial who has lived hundreds of thousands of years. My soul has been tempered with the passage of time. How can this kid surpass me? Clouds surged again at that moment, and lightning bolts descended. The black-colored lightning stretched down like tornadoes connecting the sky and the earth. This time, they weren't just aiming at Su Ping. The scope included the entire city of Sins, and both Yi Chen and Mo Rai who were next to him. The city of Sins was also purified by the black lightning bolts. The ground was torn apart and all substances were obliterated. The people who were hit by the lightning were reduced to nothingness before they could scream. Even their souls were gone. They completely vanished from the universe. Such a scene made many people flee in panic, as none of them wished to stay any longer. Many experts who were observing the battle from a distance also ran in fear. The tribulation doesn't discriminate targets. Why is this happening? I was almost hit, even though I concealed my aura. I read from an ancient book that the world-destroying heavenly tribulation eliminates all substances and lives within its range. Is that true? How's it possible? The range of this tribulation is too vast. Everything can be destroyed within. Everybody was shocked. None of them could understand why the tribulation was also attacking observers like them. They had concealed their auras, and none of their actions could have singled them out as helpers. Furthermore, they thought that the attacks were indiscriminate, considering the lightning strikes. Except for Su Ping at the very center, who had already endured the accurate strikes of 3 lightning bolts. The other lightning strikes had randomly swept across the ground and destroyed countless buildings. Bang! Su Ping tried his best to resist those 3 lightning strikes, but he was still smashed deeply into the ground. The extra bolts of lightning struck down before he could stand up. He felt as if having been torn to pieces, and his consciousness was rather blurry. I can't resist this tribulation. The idea popped up in Su Ping's head and found it absurd, as he had already experienced countless tribulations. Not once did he expect that he would die in one. Looks like they're also being attacked by the tribulation. Su Ping glanced over and saw that Mo Rai and Yi Chen were also being hit by the lightning bolts, and was more or less comforted. He gritted his teeth and got back on his feet at the bottom of a pit, then looked at the 3 small worlds floating behind him back. In any case, I must see this through. Su Ping took a deep breath and detonated another small world before he swung his sword. The 3 lightning bolts were cut to pieces. However, their resulting fragments surrounded Su Ping once more, as if he were a magnet. They gradually formed a web around Su Ping, separating him from the rest of the world. Su Ping detected a change of both time and space, as he was transferred elsewhere by the power of the tribulation. He was drowned in an ocean of lightning. Su Ping could no longer sense Mo Rai or the others. It didn't feel like the Mayhem Star Zone anymore. The constant power of lightning outside of the web destroyed Su Ping's body nonstop. He responded by reassembling his body again and again, using his accumulated power. The world of heavenly tribulations remains. They have the same origin. I hope this small world works. Su Ping hurriedly activated the 7th world and tried to send the black lightning inside. That was too much for him to handle. Chapter 1264, Universe of Chaos 1. To Su Ping's surprise, the world of heavenly tribulations worked. The world-destroying heavenly tribulation gradually died down and lost its violent nature when it was transferred to the world of heavenly tribulations. It then melded with the components of that world. The power inside the world of heavenly tribulations was connected to Su Ping's body. The enhancement of his small world made him feel that his depleted power, after detonating his other small worlds, was replenished. They have the same origin. The world of heavenly tribulations can absorb the world-destroying heavenly tribulation as nourishment. Su Ping felt overjoyed. He thought he was trapped in a desperate situation, not expecting that such an ominous tribulation would become an opportunity. Su Ping was then inspired by the continuous rain of black bolts of lightning around him. He was unable to leave the area, given by the tribulation's suppressive force. Mo Rai and Yi Chen had also been knocked down. They would have to dispel the tribulation first if they wanted to attack him. As a result, the tribulation itself became his protection. If it goes on like this, maybe I can try carving my own path. Su Ping's eyes became increasingly brighter. Having a path of his own would grant him an even greater strength. It would be even more rewarding than the world-destroying heavenly tribulation's gift. Su Ping didn't have another choice. Not thinking twice, he detonated the small deity world behind his back. The road to the ascendant state that Su Ping had thought of didn't require nature's approval. He only needed to construct his own ascendant state world with his immense power. The previous 8 small worlds were his obstacles to reach the ascendant realm. His plan was to break the 8 small worlds and condense a 9th small world with their power. The new small world would be a combination of the first 8 small worlds. It would be a real and complete small world. As for structure and condensing, Su Ping chose to complete it with the 9th astral painting on the chaos star chart, which could accommodate all stars and create a universe. It was the only route to the ascendant state that Su Ping could think of. It was also a unique route that nobody had ever tried. Boom! A violent power surged out of Su Ping's body as the small deity world fell apart, and the world-destroying heavenly tribulation became even fiercer. Su Ping could no longer sense the outside world. He then directed the tribulation to his 7th world while defending his body. At the same time, he activated the chaos stars inside his body and slowly gathered them into the 9th astral painting, which was a universe of chaos. Once the universe was founded, he would then be able to send his small world inside. It would be like giving soul to a life. He would establish a world that truly belonged to him. The lightning bolt struck down, and Su Ping stood right at the center like a rock. The attacks cleansed his body. His cells and flesh became even more condensed. They were destroyed and repaired. His astral vortices were condensed even more, unleashing a greater power. Su Ping didn't know if he was doing the right thing. It was the only way he could think of. Nobody had ever tried that road in the past, so he could only try his luck. The tribulation continued. The lightning bolts transferred into the world of heavenly tribulations, eventually turned into power, and helped him resist the tribulation itself while he constructed the universe of chaos. The chaos stars were arranged. Their force fields started to become interwoven and a galaxy was created. Then, the second galaxy, the third 9 galaxies were established. They were deeply interconnected, forming an independent circle. That circle encompassed galaxies, star zones, and individual stars. Power was functioning in order. It gradually got out of Su Ping's control. It seemed to have turned into an independent machine. The preliminary form of the universe of chaos made Su Ping feel that his body was condensed. There seemed to be a stabilizer inside his chest that held him still in the world. The bolts of lightning coming down and the laws of the world could no longer shake him. He was standing in his own universe. Is this what the real world feels like? Su Ping felt the changes taking place all over his body. The whole process was impossible to describe. He had never experienced that when he constructed his small worlds. He now felt as if he were truly holding the entire world. The interferences from the outside world were minimized. Su Ping felt that he had somehow become immune to some ascendants, law attacks. The reasoning was that such attacks couldn't reach him. The universe of chaos inside his body created a force field that kept a constant buffer resisting the outside world. Su Ping couldn't help but think of the ancient people's expressions about how a practitioner could only seek true strength from within. So I don't need the heavens, approval to create a real world that solely belongs to me. Su Ping further confirmed that he had chosen the right path and that it was worth trying, even though no one had done it before. He focused his attention and transferred the laws from the detonated small worlds into the universe of chaos. The laws in the first small world were the star-based laws. Those were used by Star Lords to establish their small worlds. The second small world contained the laws of illusion. They came from the illusory world, where countless secrets were buried. The third small world contained the laws of origin. The source world they constructed was the world where Su Ping nurtured all laws. Chapter 1265, Universe of Chaos 2. The new world power was taking shape in the universe of chaos as the laws flooded in. The process was accelerated by the power of both chaos and lightning bolts from the world-destroying heavenly tribulation. The small worlds were recreated. Su Ping found them close and familiar. Even their primitive shapes contained the power of the complete worlds from the past. The fourth small world was the small divinity world, which contained the law of endowment. It bestowed divinity and life to everything. The fifth world was the world of the dead, which contained the law of eternity. The sixth world was the small deity world that he had just detonated. It contained the law of structure. The eighth small world housed the laws of mythical creatures. Only the seventh world remained at the moment. It was the last world that he was going to detonate. That would be the most dangerous moment as he built the universe of chaos. He would have to tackle the tribulation on his own, once the world of heavenly tribulations exploded. Boom! Su Ping sensed how the power of the tribulation was multiplied as the small worlds took shape. It was 10 times stronger. Su Ping felt that he would have been pulverized if such lightning bolts had struck him in the beginning. He gritted his teeth. It was hard for him to endure despite the transference to the world of heavenly tribulations. It was fortunate that the small worlds were taking shape inside the universe of chaos, giving him strength to resist. However, there was an unknown anger in his heart. He felt that the heavenly tribulation was willingly trying to suppress him and make him collapse. He sensed how the universe of chaos became more stable as the world of the dead was created by the law of eternity. Meanwhile, a great power surged from within and enshrouded his body, dissecting his flesh. His every cell was falling apart. The astral vortices inside his cells were somehow being reorganized. All of this felt like rebirth. Su Ping relished the process and forgot the passage of time. As a matter of fact, time and space had been torn to pieces during the tribulation. Time didn't mean anything to him. 1 second could be 10 or 1,000 years. Maybe all those things were happening within the blink of an eye in the outside world. Once the power of structure covered the universe of chaos, Su Ping knew it was the seventh world's turn. That was also the most dangerous moment. He opened his eyes and looked at the ocean of black lightning bolts above him. No hesitation, Su Ping quickly detonated the last world. He was overwhelmed by the violent power brought forth by the explosion. The broken pieces of the world were then absorbed by the universe of chaos. The projection of the world of heavenly tribulations appeared in the universe of chaos, inside Su Ping's body, all of it in the blink of an eye. Exactly at that moment, Su Ping sensed how the tribulation's power attacking his body became even stronger. He roared and tried his best to prevent his body from being torn apart. Power continuously surged out of his body. He was enshrouded in the aura of chaos. His body was like a mythical ape emitting the brutal power of chaos. Once the world of heavenly tribulations took shape inside his body, Su Ping instantly transferred the power of lightning to its projection, and the tribulation pressure was reduced. Then the eighth and last world formed, the world of mythical chaos. Su Ping felt as if the entire universe were humming when the power of mythical creatures entered the universe of chaos, just as if an inert target were granted a soul. Su Ping sensed that he had lost control of his body when the universe hummed. He couldn't move anymore. He could feel that the astral vortices inside his cells were being reorganized, and the chaos stars were spinning and changing. Everything was being reconstructed. Everything he had arranged in the past was changing and moving. The lightning bolts fell at a crazy rate, and Su Ping's skin kept cracking. Just when he thought he was no longer able to handle Eve guided the power of lightning into his body. The pressure receded considerably. Right before he could heave a sigh of relief, he saw that the lightning bolts above him suddenly stopped. The dark clouds blocking the sky gradually disappeared. The sky became clear, and the light of the stars returned. He found himself back in the sky above the city of sins. The black heavenly tribulation was rolling back, seemingly in the process of vanishing. It's over. Su Ping was dazed, not expecting the heavenly tribulation to come to an abrupt end. Maybe I've endured the tribulation long enough. Still, the whole thing was surprising, particularly the lightning bolts, since they were still powerful when they were taken into his body. but now they suddenly disappeared as if disrupted by something. While still processing surprise and suspicion, he saw the little skeleton in front of him. His pet had successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and was emitting an extraordinary ascendant power, like a dreadful lord from the netherworld. Master! The little skeleton was quite excited to see that Su Ping was safe and sound. It moved closer but didn't touch him, somehow realizing that Su Ping's body was in some sort of untouchable state. Su Ping was simply looking at his pet. He couldn't relay feelings or emotions. He couldn't even open his mouth. His only perception was that the universe of chaos inside his body was settling down. The disarrayed chaos stars and the small worlds were being reassembled on their own. He was like a fellow who had merely pushed a rock on the top of a mountain. The rock was rolling down beyond his control. The powers inside his body were absorbing elements and combining. Su Ping didn't know how long it would take. He was merely glad to see that the little skeleton was fine, but he quickly realized something and felt a chill. Bang! A scorching sword aura slashed him, as Morai arrived all of a sudden. The little skeleton sensed the danger and quickly turned around, roaring and slashing back. The dark saber aura was swung like a ribbon. Thousands of undead creatures seemed to charge along with it. Morai was greatly shocked, not expecting the pet to be that strong after the breakthrough. You're asking to be killed. Yi Chen also dashed over. Su Ping had been completely enshrouded by the lightning bolts earlier on. They couldn't attack him, or they would have been seen as helpers by the tribulation. Neither of them dared to give Su Ping any time to develop, and so they charged to deal with him as soon as possible. His axe-like arm slashed at Su Ping from the side, causing a deep mark in the void. The little skeleton roared and hurriedly stepped forward, blocking the attack with its bone saber. Its bones were all cracking, though. The attack was too powerful. Su Ping was shocked and infuriated. He felt everything vividly, but he couldn't move at all, despite his indignation. He couldn't even talk to the little skeleton telepathically and ask it to leave. How can such a genius pet be so stupid? You think you can protect him? He will die in the end, even if he does rise to the ascendant state. Morai found it impossible to understand. He didn't want to kill the little skeleton as he rather adored the fellow, as he could tell that it was an ultimate pet. Yi Chen's eyes were keen enough for him to realize Su Ping's paralysis. He shouted at Morai and then charged at Su Ping. Keep the pet occupied while I kill the boy. His status is strange. I don't think he's able to move. Morai didn't reply. He simply released a dark curtain, invoking a dark universe to wreath the little skeleton. That way it would be his once Yi Chen finished the young man off. The little skeleton realized what they were planning and roared with all its undead fibers. Don't get any closer. After a boom, 7 brilliant small worlds appeared behind it and illuminated the world. They were 10 times more powerful after the breakthrough. The 7 small worlds were then placed on its saber as it charged at Morai's dark universe ferociously. The 7 ascendant worlds collided with the small universe. An explosive light instantly burst out of the void. The entire world was shaking as a terrifying blast was swept out. Chapter 1266, The Skeleton Demon 1. How's it possible? Morai was sent flying tens of thousands of kilometers away. He quickly returned with unconcealed shock. A mere ascendant creature is able to compete with my small universe. This time he was serious, and yet he was unable to suppress the creature. None of the heavenly lords in the universe were capable of such a feat. A figure quickly dashed towards Su Ping in the midst of the explosion. He was none other than Yi Chen. Die! Yi Chen was determined to kill Su Ping. He attacked furiously and shattered the void. Black dragons seemed to be etched around his axe-like arm. They represented the power of ancient Tao glyphs. Laws were withering and rotting in the void. The dark axe swallowed everything. However, a dazzling light rushed out of the explosive chaotic energy before it approached Su Ping. It was the little skeleton. It wasn't trapped by Morai's universe. The little one held the bone saber, looking like a domineering tyrant of the abyss as it roared and charged at Yi Chen. The latter was shocked and infuriated. Did Morai fail to take care of this pet? He turned his axe and slashed forth. Another terrifying impact burst out in the void, causing the city of sins to quake. Countless buildings were cracking. The Tao glyphs were making the laws in those buildings collapse. Yi Chen detected the blast and found it impossible to resist. He had to retreat. He looked at Mo Rai, who was at the moment flying over, then shouted with shock and fury, "What are you doing?" Mo Rai was rather embarrassed too. He offered an awkward-sounding reply. "That thing is quite peculiar with its 7 small worlds. I was careless." "Don't be careless again. Let's get this over with. We'll be screwed later in the future if the magic store protects him." Yi Chen flew into a rage. Mo Rai stayed silent. It wasn't the right time for arguments. Dark light was gathered all over his body and eclipsed the stars above. An enormous dark universe appeared, studded with countless stars. Ancient devil imprisonment. Mo Rai performed the secret skill. He was going to completely seal the little skeleton with his universe as a medium. A power on par with Tao glyphs was stretched in the void and ensnared the little skeleton. The pet's laws lost effect, and its power was suppressed. The little skeleton backed away, but was quick to stop. Su Ping was merely several dozen meters away. The little pet couldn't retreat any longer. Roared. Flames surged out of the little skeleton's eye sockets, like bloodshot. It roared and condensed the 7 ascendant worlds inside its body. All of its bones were set ablaze with the aura of chaos. The skeleton's power grew significantly, then swiftly swung its saber while facing the invisible shackles. Thousands of undead troops charged out, evening out the void and breaking the entrapment. This thing has also mastered Tao glyphs. Such a desperate way of using them can be its undoing. Mo Rai was shocked by the incredible development. Not only did the ascendant pet know Tao glyphs, it was also using them to fight a celestial. He could tell that the skeleton was burning its potential. "Damn it, let's take care of this thing together." Yi Chen realized that something was off, as Mo Rai was having a hard time finishing off that creature. This surprised and angered him. Not only was Su Ping tricky to deal with, even his pet was troublesome. What if this pet reached the celestial state? Wouldn't the boy have the power to crush all celestials with just the pet? A hazy universe appeared behind his back. Dark and silver colors were intertwined like the ancient power of yin and yang. The sun, the moon, the stars, and countless people could be seen within. The power of worship. Yi Chen invoked the power of the domesticated lives within his inner domain and strengthened his universe. His universe then crushed all laws like a comet and moved to crush the little skeleton. The latter raised his head, flames hopping in its eye sockets. The only thing it could see was the massive incoming universe. How could it resist the impact of an entire universe? The pet's previous battle experiences made things clear. It was impossible to resist such an attack. The best option was to dodge. Still, the skeleton didn't dodge. It clenched the bone saber instead. A complex energy surged out, which was a mixture of undead power, divine power, and chaos power. There was a boom. The pet detonated the first ascendant world. Then the second. The 2 detonations covered its body with white flames, which were like the infinite resentment in the world. Hoarse cries coming from hell could be heard. The overwhelming power made the pet expand to almost 30 meters in height. Having become a skeleton giant, it raised its saber and slashed out. The saber attack mustered all its power, and countless undead creatures flew away, just as if hell itself would have been hurled in its entirety at the universe. Boom! There was a magnificent clash, and everybody saw the most unbelievable scene. The ascendant from the other star zones were able to witness such a portent from a distance. An ascendant state pet had confronted a celestial expert's pressure and resisted his attack head-on. Many felt their blood curl as they watched the roaring and unyielding figure under the falling universe. Chapter 1267, The Skeleton Demon 2. An ascendant against a celestial, someone mumbled. Those who were seeing the battle believed that this precedent would be recorded in history. This skeleton pet would become a legend in the universe. So it's possible for an ascendant to do this. Liu Xia, Hai Mei, and the other top heavenly lords watched the scene in a daze, unable to believe what they were seeing. Still, they knew that all of it was real. The pet had unleashed a power that surpassed theirs. It was shocking and embarrassing. They were all deeply touched too. Once feeling the resistance, Yi Chen widened his eyes and roared with a fury coming from deep within his soul. Die now. His hair fluttered furiously, and he harnessed all his power in a downward attack. All of the countless creatures in Yi Chen's universe listened to his command and offered their power. The energy from billions of creatures was manifested, ready to press down and swallow the little skeleton. The latter didn't even have a chance to escape. It would be immediately engulfed and crushed by that universe if it couldn't hold on for much longer. Go to hell. Mo Rai also took action. His dark universe was compressed and turned into a tiny black hole that dashed towards the little skeleton's chest. The two celestials attacked at the same time with their universes. Let alone an ascendant, even a celestial would prefer to dodge their combined power. Many people who were watching the battle couldn't help but mumble, "It's over." How is it possible to resist the attacks of two universes? The little skeleton was looking intently at the incoming universes. Flames hopped in its eye sockets. The suddenly flared up the next moment, expanding to cover its head, almost like burning hair. Ugh! The undead creature's hollow mouth let out a hoarse roar. Bones were separated on its chest area, and another pair of arms grew out. Meanwhile, the ascendant state worlds behind its back dazzled brilliantly again. Bang, bang, bang. 3 ascendant worlds were detonated one after the other. The violent power made its flames shine even brighter and affect a wider area. 2 golden fists were condensed. They were the fists of Exorcus that Su Ping had cultivated. The little skeleton had also grasped that technique. It performed the skill at that moment and stopped Mo Rai's dark universe. However, the clash with the dark universe pushed the skeleton back continuously. Roar! The little skeleton roared and detonated another ascendant world. It stood still in the void as if rooted on the spot. The fire in its eye sockets were like blood as the pet blocked the dark universe forcefully. It seemed that the skeleton had infinite physical strength. It was actually able to withstand the impact of 2 universes. This scene seemed to be frozen in time, etched in everyone's eyes. Countless people widened their eyes, unable to believe such a miraculous scene. Both Mo Rai and Yi Chen felt completely at a loss. They could not believe it. This is impossible. Mo Rai lost his cool. What kind of strength was that? Yi Chen was in a trance, but he soon recovered. Madness filled his eyes as he roared, "Keep going. It's just an ascendant pet. How can it stop me? How?" His body expanded significantly as he rushed out while laying a hand on his small universe. That hand seemed to contain the power of hundreds of planets. The universe shook and pressed on towards the little skeleton. Black flames emerged from the small universe, which then spread to the little skeleton through the bone saber. Mo Rai realized what was going on. He dashed and reappeared in front of the little skeleton. While confronting the pet with the 2 universes, he suddenly attacked with the nether saber, now with the awakened red python spirit. The little skeleton was resisting the pressure imposed by Yi Chen's small universe. Caught unprepared by Mo Rai's attack, it was instantly tied up by the red python. Dents and cracks appeared on the corrupted bones. Mo Rai turned and kicked, sending the little skeleton flying. A lot of its bones fell off as it rolled in the void. It suddenly made a stabbing motion in the void, as if it were plain soil, right when it was about to hit Su Ping. It somehow stopped. Go to hell together, crazy-eyed, Yi Chen attacked with his small universe again. Mo Rai didn't spare the pet any mercy either. He could tell that the skeleton's potential had been spent. Even if caught, it would only be an ordinary pet, might as well destroy it. The little skeleton quickly got back to its feet when they continued their combined attacks. Its figure looked extremely slim while eclipsed by the 2 magnificent and brilliant universes. It was like a tiny creature in comparison. The scene seemed like a repetition of a time when the tiny skeleton was standing next to Su Ping. However, Su Ping had turned into a tiny being to protect this time. The universes had yet to reach them, but their power was already enough for normal ascendants to spout blood and kneel. However, the little skeleton stood ground like a monument. Some of its bones fell off and moved to cover Su Ping. Su Ping, while paralyzed, realized what the little skeleton was doing. Desperation and madness made his brain boil. He wanted to shout and put a stop to it, but he was unable to control his body. He couldn't even shed a tear. Su Ping was practically wearing armor as the bones covered him. The little skeleton became even thinner, but it still charged at the two universes. There was another explosion, and the pet's seventh world was detonated. A roar echoed throughout the sky as the violent power surged out. Brilliant sword auras surged like tides and slashed at the two universes with a brutal force. Both Yi Chen and Mo Rai grunted as they were stopped for a moment. Celestials rarely used their small universes directly to fight, especially because it was hard for them to recover. Their small universes had received damage just then. Shocked and infuriated, both of them were determined to kill the little skeleton. It was all they could do to recover from the utter embarrassment caused by an ascendant creature. After a boom, the two small universes moved straight down and drowned the little skeleton. A dazzling light burst out, the blast pushing Su Ping hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, closer to those observing the battle. Everyone could see Su Ping clearly and were astonished to see him unscathed. They soon noticed that the bones covering Su Ping's skin were full of cracks. The skeleton had clearly blocked the terrifying blast at the last moment. What a terrifying pet! It can mislead into believing it's a celestial pet. What bloodline does it have? I've never heard of anything like it. I've never seen such a tough skeleton. All the observers had mixed feelings. The heavenly lords from the Heavenly Devil Alliance were staring at Su Ping. Their eyes were blinking as they pondered whether to make a move and execute Su Ping while he remained in that weird status. They would surely be awarded for it. However, Su Ping had fought two Celestials for a very long time. Even his pet was terrifying. They weren't sure of being successful, so none dared to act recklessly. Su Ping's head was ringing at the moment. His eyes were almost blank. His body was static, but he could tell that the bond between him and the little skeleton was fading. That was the sign of death. His pupils narrowed, and his soul was almost exploding with madness. However, his body was still unable to move despite all his emotions. Furthermore, the more power he summoned, the more restrained he became. The next moment Su Ping suddenly felt that his body was drifting slowly. The bones that had formerly covered his body began to fall slowly, reconstituting half of the little skeleton. It was holding Su Ping with one hand and crawling forward in the void with the other. Chapter 1268, Am I Qualified? 1. Su Ping wanted to open his mouth, but he couldn't even move his lips. He thought he was about to burst into tears. The fatting contract in his head was telling him that the little skeleton's vitality was declining rapidly, as the pet was on the verge of dying. Why is it trying so hard? Whoosh! Whoosh! Right before all the onlookers, two figures flashed over with a domineering aura. They were none other than the two celestial enemies. However, neither Mo Rai nor Yi Chen looked well at the moment. They had indeed dealt a heavy blow to the skeleton, but at a very high cost. Their small universes were damaged and would require tens of thousands of years to mend. You may rest in peace knowing that a mighty pet has sacrificed itself for your sake. Yi Chen raised his hand with undisguised fury and killing intent on his face. A destructive black dragon made of Daoglyphs charged out. Bang! Su Ping's body was swallowed by the black dragon, but then something happened. He was ejected right after. The cracked bones on his skin had almost fallen off. The hand that was struggling to drag them to safety was shattered. Huh! Yi Chen frowned and raised a hand, ready to give Su Ping one final blow. However, he sensed an ominous coldness. His hand stopped in midair. His eyes grew wider as he stared at Su Ping. He saw that chaos flame auras were erupting from Su Ping's pores and interconnecting. covering Su Ping's body and making him seem like he were burning. Su Ping was still unable to move. However, the universe of chaos inside his body was almost complete and was releasing a terrifying power without restraint. This was happening since Su Ping couldn't suppress it. What's going on? Morai slightly changed his expression as the situation was eerie. Su Ping's body was still paralyzed, floating in midair, but he was releasing an appalling amount of chaos power that even the pure chaos creatures might not have. Hurry up and do it, something's off. Yi Chen snapped out of his shock and his expression changed. He instantly realized why the Tao glyphs had failed to kill Su Ping. It was all due to the young man's defenses. He was decisive as he summoned his damaged small universe, ready to give Su Ping a full-strength blow. Mo Rai was shocked to see how crazy and daring his partner was. After all, it was really difficult to mend a small universe, and they still had other enemies to confront after that battle. Is this the determination of a devil from ancient times? Mo Rai stayed silent. He simply charged at Su Ping with the nether saber in hand. Phew! The entire space was eclipsed as the small universe drew near. All the onlookers backed away, fearing that they would be caught in a terrifying blast. Many people showed conflicted faces as they looked at the back of the young man. He was undoubtedly the most talented genius anyone had ever seen, but he was doomed to die. It was truly sad and unfortunate. However, right when Yi Chen's small universe was about to bash Su Ping, the entire world somehow solidified. Everybody experienced an unusual fleeting sensation, just like some sort of illusion. The next moment, Su Ping, who had merely been floating the whole time, suddenly struggled to raise a hand. Is he trying to resist the universe of a celestial state expert? Go to hell, Yi Chen declared with a scary momentum. A hazy light was slowly gathering in Su Ping's hand. The next moment, the light stretched out like a mirror and turned into a huge plate that stood in front of the brilliant universe. Most shockingly of all, Yi Chen's small universe was forced to stop. A blast that was strong enough to pierce through half of the Mayhem Star Zone seemed to have lost all momentum, right in front of Su Ping's hand. It simply stopped. With black hair fluttering in the void, Su Ping gradually incorporated from his lying posture. He shot Yi Chen with a crazy and cold gaze, eyes bloodshot. Thoughts of violence almost drove Su Ping as mad as a raging beast. However, his grief and his long-time habit allowed him to keep his rationality. He slowly lowered his head and looked at the few broken bones left hanging on his body. The contract in his head was already as vague as a shadow. Su Ping felt like screaming. He tried to hold back the effect, but the contract's power was beyond his level. Master! Once it sensed that Su Ping was recovering, the broken bones hanging on his body gradually gathered into a fist-sized skull. The eye sockets had a barely visible red light within. The skull's jaw moved slowly as it sent out a voice. Am I qualified as your pet? Su Ping almost burst into tears as he looked at the remaining skull. He reached out, but the little skeleton's cracked skull was unable to hold any longer and fell apart into countless pieces before his hand could touch it. The pieces then quickly dispersed as powder in the void. Run quickly! A voice barely audible echoed in the void and in Su Ping's ears. The faint contract in Su Ping's head was completely gone by then. Dead. The little skeleton was dead. Su Ping stood in a daze. His head was completely blank, as if thunder were rumbling. Chapter 1269, Am I Qualified? 2. The little skeleton's last words were still echoing in his ears. Am I qualified as your pet? Su Ping couldn't help but look at the sky and roar. The grief and pain almost drove him crazy. Qualified? Of course you're qualified. I'm the one who's unqualified. Bloody tears rolled out of Su Ping's eyes and covered his chest. Never had he lost his self-control as badly. He screamed and waved his hands as he reversed time and space. He returned to a minute prior. However, the broken bones were nowhere to be seen. Continue revering. 10 minutes, 30 minutes. Time and space around Su Ping was being constantly reversed. All the substances around him changed quickly, but there were still no bones on him. There was no sign of the little skeleton either. Su Ping crazily reversed time and space and tried to find his pet. Bang! All of a sudden something smashed Su Ping and disrupted the time and space flow, taking him back to the original timeline. Su Ping fell and crashed into the City of Sins, producing a deep pit. Huh! Yi Chen stared at the newly formed chasm and slightly changed his expression. His attack had indeed landed, but there was something off about it. Bang! There was a sudden explosion in the deep pit, and a person soared straight to the sky. Go to hell! Seemingly deranged, Su Ping reached Yi Chen in the blink of an eye. Time and space were disordered before his eyes. Bam! Su Ping threw a punch. Yi Chen was astounded. Su Ping's movement was beyond what he could anticipate. It was too fast. He quickly raised a hand and manifested Tao glyphs, but then an explosion burst out and his hand was cut off. His shocked face also fell apart. Blood splashed and Yi Chen's head blew up. Mo Rai, who was just about to attack, was instantly shocked by what he saw. He stared at the figure in the void. Su Ping looked like a crazy devil with bloodshot eyes. His fists suddenly moved and seemed as if there were millions of them the moment he made Yi Chen's head blow up. Each fist was extremely powerful. The ninth space was revealed all over by their effect. Yi Chen's figure exploded in the midst of countless fists. Some of his flesh tried to reassemble, but quickly fell apart. Everybody was stunned by the scene. The previously formidable Celestial had been reduced to smithereens by Su Ping in the blink of an eye. Mo Rai also realized what was going on. Stop! He shouted in shock and fury, then summoned his dark universe as he charged at Su Ping. He could sense that the latter's combat ability was extraordinary at the moment, so he couldn't hold back. FCK off! Roared Su Ping as he turned around to stare at the enemy. His bloodshot eyes gave Mo Rai a chill. The next moment Su Ping suddenly sent a slap to the incoming universe. There was a boom. Space shook, and the enormous universe was forced to stop, and its surface seemed to be cracking. Mo Rai trembled and spouted a mouthful of blood. He looked at Su Ping with utmost shock and fright. Is this your universe? You're so weak, too weak, Su Ping roared, but he wasn't speaking in a mocking tone. Bloody tears came down from his eyes instead. Their celestial realm was too weak, and still the little skeleton died because of them. Mo Rai's heart was disturbed. He was stunned by Su Ping's words and scared of the power packed in the last attack. How can he possibly have such power after barely rising to the ascendant state? Mo Rai found it hard to believe. What kind of monster is this? I won't let you die. Su Ping stopped and looked at pieces of torn flesh in front of him. He suddenly raised a hand to absorb and compress them into a meatball. The compressed flesh wriggled and a face appeared on the surface. It was Yi Chen's. It was the look of his original self, not the face of Lin Xiu, whom he had possessed. You! Yi Chen looked at Su Ping in fear. He was actually incapable of resisting. He couldn't even release his small universe before Su Ping blew his body up. The small universe was hidden inside his body. Su Ping had to withstand the small universe's counterforce to hurt Yi Chen's body. However, Su Ping endured the effect and managed to wound the man heavily. Such a result implied that Su Ping was capable of destroying his small universe, even if he launched it. Too weak, you're too weak. A scary light flashed in Su Ping's bloodshot eyes. I will have you experience true pain. You will see death as a privilege. He clenched the meatball and transferred it to his universe of chaos. That's right. The universe had already taken shape inside his body. Its indescribable power allowed Su Ping to be on par with celestial experts. He was even comparable to the top celestials. The power of his universe of chaos was far beyond Su Ping's imagination. It was much greater than the small universes owned by Yi Chen and the others. Su Ping turned around and looked at Mo Rai ferociously. Mo Rai's face was cold. He could tell that Su Ping's status was terrifying. His first thought was to retreat since Yi Chen was suppressed in the blink of an eye. It was humiliating to be scared off by a guy who had just risen to the ascendant state, but his life was much more important than his face. All those who had laughed at him during his embarrassing moments had all died of old age. Whoosh! Mo Rai turned around and fled. But the next moment, Su Ping flashed and suddenly appeared in the void right in front of his eyes. He had directly torn a path to the ninth space and then broken out, reaching the maximum speed achievable in the universe. All Celestials could tear into the ninth space. Their ability to tear space open made the difference in speed. Mo Rai's speed was undoubtedly far lower than Su Ping. He had no chance to escape. He couldn't even travel across the barriers of the universe, which required time to open, or using great arrays set up in advance. Boom! Su Ping stomped on Mo Rai's chest as soon as he rushed out of the void. The sound of bones and flesh exploding was spread out. A fraction of the universe of chaos, power was condensed on Su Ping's foot. That small amount of power was already enough to crush Mo Rai's body and kick him away like a bag. Su Ping caught up to Mo Rai in the blink of an eye. He grabbed the man's arm and placed a hand on the man's nape to brutally break his neck. The bloody and brutal scene left all the onlookers in a daze. They couldn't even breathe nor think. Su Ping, who had previously been in the most dire situation, was now able to unleash a terrifying combat ability. The two Celestials had been suppressed easily, just like random chickens. Bang, bang, bang. Su Ping waved his fist consecutively, and Mo Rai instantly exploded. His armor was activated, but it was then blown up by Su Ping's first punch, completely incapable of enduring for even a moment. Su Ping was like a devil reborn. He displayed an invincible power as he beat Mo Rai into a pulp. You won't get to die easily, either. Su Ping snatched the torn flesh floating in the void, then gazed at the face on the surface of that bundle of flesh with crazy and cold eyes. Please spare me. I'm willing to offer you ultimate treasures. I can even tell you about the relics of another universe dominator. It's absolutely true. The very first thing that Mo Rai did was beg, completely unbecoming of his celestial status. It was obvious that Su Ping had completely destroyed his pride and confidence. A celestial who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years was now assailed by a strong sense of death. Mo Rai's deepest fear was not death itself, but his fate now that fell into Su Ping's hands. He wouldn't even have a chance to die, even if he wanted to. Did you consider sparing my life earlier on? Killing intent was almost overflowing in Su Ping's eyes. He exerted his strength and squeezed the meatball, but soon gathered the pieces once again. Chapter 1270, Eat the Saint 1. The relics of a universe dominator, all my belongings and the Doom Star Zone will be yours. I can join the Celestial Court too, as long as you spare me, said Mo Rai in a hurry. He didn't want to die just like that, after cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years. He had spent just as long with his scheming. He had hunted Celestials once and still dreamed of becoming a universe dominator. His dream had yet to be fulfilled. He didn't want to die. You won't die this easily, said Su Ping grimly. He then squeezed one of his hands and sent the man into his universe of chaos. Blazing shackles were gathered from all directions, ensnaring both Yi Chen and Mo Rai and suppressing them completely. Flames powerful enough to burn the soul raged on. It didn't take long for devastating screams to burst out. Not even the Celestials had the metal to tolerate the noises. Su Ping ignored them and looked around. Those who happened to meet his eyes retreated out of reflex, not daring to look back. This was so especially when it happened to Hai Mei and the others mixed in the crowd. They were quick to lower their heads in desperation, hearts racing. They had previously stood on the Heavenly Devil Alliance's side and tried to kill Su Ping. The tables turned. The latter suppressed two Celestials, and the Heavenly Devil Alliance would undoubtedly collapse. The last Celestial on their side wasn't enough to lead the whole faction. They would surely die if Su Ping were to seek retaliation. They considered running, but reason stopped them from taking action. Even Celestials had failed to escape from Su Ping. What could they do? They would only die faster if they did anything reckless. Surrendering was their last chance to survive. Su Ping only spared them a glance and ignored them afterwards. The surging killing intent and grief in his heart prompted him to take Yi Chen and Mo Rai into a zone with disordered time and space to torture them infinitely. However, he knew there were more important things to do. Checking on his master and his senior brothers. There were also his other enemies. Whoosh! Su Ping flashed across space and instantly appeared somewhere in the distance. Many bodies were sprawled randomly. There were also torn corpses of gigantic beasts. Once he got there, he saw that Chunyu, his second senior brother, was supporting Song Yuan, their eldest brother. Both seemed to be exhausted, but they were still alive. Su Ping's anger receded somewhat. He extended his perception and quickly examined the others. He quickly discovered that Jai Zuking had lost all her vitality. Her body was rotting, corrupted by the power of Tao patterns. Senior brother Yulong was dying too, about to draw his last breath. There was a mysterious power on his chest that seemed to have miraculously kept him alive. In addition, his third senior brother was extremely weakened, but in much better condition when compared to Yulong. As for the rest, they had died, meeting the same fate as his fourth senior sister. Su Ping gritted his teeth and approached Yulong after a flash. He pressed his hands against Yulong's chest, releasing the power of chaos and transforming it into vitality. The latter soon struggled to open his eyes, feeling at a loss as though he were dreaming. Without saying a word, Su Ping moved to treat his third senior brother, also rescuing him from death's grasp. Jai Zuking was next. Su Ping couldn't help but clench his fists as he looked at her beautiful yet pale face. A crazy killing intent was sprouting inside his heart, just like the root of a tree. He then remembered the first time they met. She was with Elder Yan. In the blink of an eye, the sunny and delightful girl had turned into a cold body, riddled with wounds lying before him. Could there be a graver pain? Su Ping wanted to reverse time to restore her health. However, she too had been thoroughly bashed by the power of Tao patterns to be resurrected by revering time, just as it happened to the little skeleton. He silently released a gentle power of chaos to erase the Tao patterns, relentless corruptive power affecting her body. Once he saw that her body was no longer decaying, he covered it with chaos power and sent it into his small universe. After that, he took care of his deceased seniors, also sending them to his chaos universe after removing their battle wounds. Junior brother. Yulong led Chunyu, Song Yuan, and the others to meet him, then asked in a hurry, "Where are the two celestial sons of bitches? How is it that you're still here?" "They were suppressed by me," said Su Ping, astounding his seniors. "Have some rest, I'll go find master." Su Ping glanced at them, although feeling too ashamed to face them. He flashed and disappeared right after his reply. Yulong couldn't help but ask, "What did he just say?" Hanyi said in a daze, "Did he say that he suppressed two celestials?" Chunyu and Song Yuan shared bewildered looks. Although hard to believe, Su Ping actually surviving was quite convincing, despite their failed attempt to block their enemies. But, whoosh! Su Ping's consciousness was spread out, and soon located his master somewhere in the ninth space. He arrived to witness a huge battle taking place. Chapter 1271, Eat the Saint 2. There were two people fighting one person. Their battle was so fierce that its wake had destroyed torrents of ancient power flowing inside that deep space. Su Ping narrowed his eyes, his expression changing somewhat as he took in the situation. The two people were Kaefalet and the old Saint King, while the person being banded against was not his master, but Kai Huo, who had shown up as reinforcement. "Stop struggling, you will die today," the Saint King roared. He was like a Buddha, with sacred and magnificent figures condensing behind his back. There were eyeballs all over his wings too, giving him an eerie yet holy appearance. Kaefalet was covered in Tao patterns too. She seemed to be performing some sort of ancient secret technique inherited from the ancient corpse. It was so powerful that Kai Huo was being careful, not daring to fight her head-on. The planet of origin has finally bared its fangs after we ensured the peace in all the universe for endless years. However, you're dreaming if you think you can kill me. Kaihyu roared, his hair fluttering in the wind. Purple flames raged out of his body, making him look like a fire god. Those were special Tao flames. Humph! The Saint King snorted and extended his hands. The sacred figures behind him immediately waved hundreds of hands to oppress the fiery Kaihyu. Kea attacked at the same time from the back, not giving Kaihyu a chance to dodge. Just as she was about to take action, she suddenly sensed that something was afoot. She turned around and narrowed her eyes. Her vision and senses registered a dark figure moving towards her at an unimaginable speed. There was a loud bang. A formidable force struck her waist and nearly split her into halves. Her body was sent flying dozens of kilometers away in the chaotic deep space. She then crashed into a fast and sharp power flying toward her. Her arm was cut off and blood splashed out. The unexpected incident shocked the three experts fighting. The Saint King narrowed his eyes with utmost disbelief as he clearly saw the new arrival. "It's you. It's you." The second exclamation belonged to Kaihyu, who was equally shocked when he recognized who it was. Not once did he expect to find that help would be provided by Shen Huang's disciple instead of Su Kang. He knew that the boy was unusually talented, but that was a battle waged by Celestials. How did he get here? Bang! Su Ping paused and waved a hand, unleashing a stream of violent power that shattered the hundreds of hands attacking Kaihyu. He asked with freezing eyes, "Where's my master?" Kaihyu was stunned. He could not believe what he was seeing. He even suspected that he had fallen into an illusion cast by the villains from the planet of origin, but soon he realized how implausible it was. He said in a daze, "Your master died in battle. His body is here. You." There was a boom. Su Ping's head seemed to have exploded. An insuppressible killing intent surged out of his heart. His eyes instantly turned bloodshot. He died in battle. Kaihyu had trouble breathing due to the pressure. Even his flames were blown back. His shock was greater than before. Before he was able to add another word, Edgewise Su Ping charged out. The Saint King, who had just snapped out of his shock while in midair, saw the bloodshot eyes right in front of his face. His heart started racing. He hurriedly took action, but his hands were soon caught by a pair of iron-like hands. A violent power was then infused through those hands, entering the Saint King's body like an electric current. His arms cracked and his flesh and blood splashed all over. "This is impossible," the Saint King roared, shocked and furious. An ominous premonition of death came over him. Having no time to care about anything else, he simply activated his small universe. However, his small universe was pressed back into his body by a massive force, right when it was about to be released. Following that, his body exploded. Su Ping extended a hand. The bits of flesh were soon gathered as before, compressing them to make a meatball. Lightning and fire covered his hand and tortured the piece of meat. "All of you deserve to die." Su Ping gnashed his teeth, but he chose not to kill the old man just yet. He summoned the young chaos beast instead. The pet was covered by a layer of chaos power the moment it appeared, which worked as a buffer to block the ninth space's pressure. Su Ping threw the meatball over and said, "Eat this." The young chaos beast jumped in delight at the sight of its master, but was quick to stop once it sensed Su Ping's foul mood. It was slightly surprised and suspicious, as it also sensed that he was many times stronger than before. In any case, it was a good thing for Su Ping to become stronger. The young pet nodded obediently and looked at the meatball, instantly recognizing an aura. It could not help but grimace as it quickly chewed away. "No, no." The Saint King's scream echoed in the young chaos beast's mouth, full of hatred and resentment. Su Ping's eyes were cold. He suppressed the guy's consciousness with his power. The Saint King's voice faded quickly, and the pet was sent back to the contract space once it was done eating. Digesting a celestial would take a while. Su Ping's plan was to have that expert's attainments be eaten bit by bit by the young chaos beast. That would surely be a grisly punishment. Once that was settled, Su Ping looked in the distance and noticed a fleeing silhouette. She was none other than Kayafolet. Whoosh! Su Ping quickly vanished and chased after her like a blurry shadow. Kaihua was left behind, floating in a daze. The whole situation felt surreal, beyond his understanding. Shen Huang's young disciple had actually suppressed the Saint King with ease. He even fed the man to his pet. Kaihua gazed at Su Ping's retreating figure, dazed for a long time. He suddenly felt that the universe would soon undergo some changes. He didn't know what had just happened, but he knew that someone with power to overthrow the celestial state had revealed himself. Such an event could symbolize the unification of the loosely run universe into an autocratic empire. How could this be? How did it happen? Kayafolet flew as fast as possible. Her head was a mess. She even suspected that her eyes had deceived her. Retaliation was her first thought when Su Ping ambushed her, but then she witnessed the most shocking scene. Not even her master was a match for Su Ping at all. The guy who had competed with her over the legacy was like a god reborn. He was unbelievably strong. She didn't know why that happened, but she had to run. If she managed to escape to the outside world and find seniors Mo Rai and Yi Chen, the three of them could work together to take him down. What exactly happened? Was I not the one who received the legacy? Kayafolet even began to wonder if she had truly been the official recipient of the inheritance. Was her legacy fake? Was the real legacy inherited by Su Ping? Why else would he suddenly gain such a terrifying power? Whoosh! She soon discovered that Su Ping was catching up. He was unimaginably fast, much more than her. Furthermore, they were currently rushing through the ninth space, an environment where it was impossible to use flash movements using a deeper space. It was only a matter of time for him to catch up. It wouldn't take long. Damn it, I need to find those two guys immediately. Kayafolet quickly spread her senses to reach the outside layer and examine the situation. However, she failed to find Mo Rai and the others after searching for a good while. Rot in hell. Su Ping had already caught up. He suddenly slashed at her. Sword auras roared in the deep space like angry dragons, rushing to reach her at even faster speeds. Kayafolet was frightened. Su Ping is able to unleash this much power despite the pressure inside the deepest space. It was almost as if he were fighting in the primary universe outside. She quickly defended herself with the ancient skills she had just inherited, waving her hands and launching fist attacks. Chapter 1272, Beyond the Crack 1. Bang! All the fist marks were disseminated like petals, but they were instantly cleared, shattering like butterflies. The sword glittered as lightning, cutting the deep space apart. Kayafolet saw her arm flying out and rolling in deep space. Her eyes widened. She was still unable to fathom why she couldn't resist a single strike from Su Ping. Is this the legacy you've acquired? Su Ping dashed close like an eagle, then threw a punch to shatter the tortoise spirit infused on Kayafolet's armor, which was instantly cracked. He reached out and clutched Kayafolet's slender neck. Kayafolet was pale-faced after that question. She had received a universe dominator's legacy and entered the celestial state. Alas, she was quickly defeated by Su Ping nonetheless. Even if the legacy's bestowal was recent and required longer to fully consolidate, things shouldn't have happened that way. The magic store is truly beyond the universe dominator realm. How could you ever accomplish so much without it? Kayafolet gritted her teeth, reluctant to give in. Your weakness limits your imagination, Su Ping said coldly. Not just the universe dominator. Even the existences above universe dominators are nothing. It's true that my achievements would have been impossible without the magic store, but so what? Why didn't the magic store choose you as master? What would you be if you weren't a saint heir from the planet of origin? You. Kayafolet was lost for words. She then replied with an awful expression. Even if I weren't the saint heir, I would have still risen in prominence. I would have stood out in the Universe Geniuses contest and caught a celestial's attention. After that, I would certainly grow to become a top heavenly lord. Your confidence is hilarious. Su Ping looked down at her and continued. You probably wouldn't have grown up if you weren't the saint heir. You're completely oblivious to the fate of ordinary people. Most of them can't even keep their bellies full, let alone cultivate. Even if you're talented, so what? Who would ever notice your talent if your chances to cultivate were non-existent? I am now in the celestial state. Why can't I be confident? Caophilet was relentlessly unconvinced. Even if I were born in a poor family, I would have made money with my own efforts and found cultivation resources. You have no idea about the things I went through to cultivate. Your effort to compare me with the plights of the idiotic common folk is hilarious. Their suffering is only physical, but the torture I've been through is unimaginable for them. Delusional. Su Ping could only spare her that answer. She was clearly unaware of her privileges, ones that others never had. Why couldn't food just grow out of plates? Still grabbing her by the neck, he moved from the deepest space to the universe outside. It was impossible for Caophilet to break free. She sensed a terrifying power in Su Ping's hand, which even suppressed the small universe inside her. He would probably kill her instantly, the moment she tried to escape. Killing a celestial was usually a difficult endeavor, but now there seemed to be an exception. "Hand over your legacy, and I'll give you a painless death," said Su Ping coldly, while still keeping her in a vice grip. Caophilet saw the killing intent in Su Ping's eyes. She was well aware that he wouldn't let any of them go easily, not after she and her master killed Shen Huang. Her master had been fed to a pet and was very likely dead already. She didn't think that Su Ping would spare her easily anyway. "You want the legacy? Keep dreaming," she said coldly. "Even if I do give it to you, you won't be able to assimilate it. This is why I say you're petty. You've been raised by the magic store and become this strong, and yet you're still greedy about the legacy of a universe dominator. If I were you, I wouldn't even bother to look at the legacy, even if it were thrown to my feet. I'm asking for the legacy because I don't want that power to disappear along with trash like yourself. Your pride means nothing to me." Su Ping said coldly, "I'll give you one last chance. Will you give it to me or not?" "In your dreams." Caophilet sneered. She also realized that Su Ping was probably not asking for his sake, but for one of his pets as he claimed before. If the legacy was transferred to another top heavenly lord, they could probably reach the celestial state and even become a universe dominator. "If I seal your power and throw you where the criminals live, what do you think will happen?" Su Ping looked at her with freezing cold eyes. She changed her expression as she replied with shock and fury, "Don't you dare." Su Ping slapped her in the face. He looked at her messy hair and said, "In my eyes, you're just a talking chunk of meat, a chunk that will finally shut up real soon. I have 100,000 methods to make you wish you were dead. You will have a chance to experience the suffering of the common folk." Caophilet was slapped into a daze. That was the first slap she had ever received in her entire life. Her head was ringing, both because of Su Ping's forceful hand and because of shock. She was sobered up by Su Ping's words and felt cold, sensing that the young man wasn't just threatening her. He was too strong to be scared of anything in the universe. It wasn't hard to imagine how crazy and twisted a fearless person could be. Caophilet bit her lips and asked, "What exactly do you want?" Chapter 1273, Beyond the Crack 2. As I said, hand over the legacy. Su Ping's eyes were cold and emotionless. "I didn't choose the legacy chose me." Caophilet chose to give in. "The legacy is divided into 3 parts. Right now, I've only inherited the first part. I don't know about the other 2. You can't have them even if you kill me. The ancient corpse has run out of power and does not have any legacy left. If you want me to hand the legacy, you'll have to wait until I inherit it fully." "Is that so?" Su Ping raised a hand and laid it on her head. "Let me examine your memories and I'll find out." Caophilet's eyes widened. She said in fear and shock, "You can't do that." Su Ping was going to use the soul-searching technique inherited from his bloodline, but then a strange and creepy aura was suddenly spread out. Su Ping narrowed his eyes, hairs instinctively standing on end. He raised his head and looked. The ominous aura came from the depths of the City of Sins in the distance. It was the place where the ancient corpse and the crack in the universe were located. Su Ping's eyes turned into chaos vortices. Time and space before his eyes started to fold, allowing him to see the crack and the ancient corpse directly. This power arranged things as if he were standing right in front of the crack. He soon discovered that something was off. The crack in the universe had somehow become much wider. What is going on? While dazed, Su Ping saw Dao glyph threads spreading out of the crack. They were ancient, primitive, and dark, extending like some sort of beard. Those Dao glyphs were the source of his unease. It seems that something is coming out. Su Ping's heart raced as an ominous feeling overwhelmed him. Considering his combat ability, whatever made him uneasy had to be something terrifying. Kaophalet sensed Su Ping's sudden distraction, still trapped in a tight grip. While puzzled, she tried to struggle, only to discover that her small universe was still being suppressed. She also sensed something unusual as she tried activating her universe. It seemed that something had appeared in the world. What is this feeling? Kaophalet was astonished. She couldn't describe it. However, she somehow sensed a pair of eyes gazing at her as a cold-blooded hunter would. A breeze passed through the world. The sky above the entire city of Sins fell quiet at that moment. Many were crawling out from the ruins of the seriously wrecked capital, running for their lives. All the denizens saw Celestials fighting and knew that the dome protecting the Mayhem Star Zone had been destroyed. The fact that Celestials were present was a sign that they would no longer be safe. Just as the locals were trying to escape, all the ascendant cultivators from various star zones were looking at Su Ping and Kaophalet, who had just emerged from the deeper spaces. One of them was the Saint Heir from the planet of origin, and the other was an unprecedented genius. Many felt conflicted as they saw how the Saint Heir's throat was clutched. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen, but then some heavenly lords noticed something and looked back into the depths of the City of Sins. Many more noticed their reaction, noticing that something was indeed wrong. Their attention was removed from the pair to focus on the crack in the sky. The ancient corpse was still faintly visible. However, the most important matter was the crack's size. It was originally far smaller than the corpse, but now they were just as large. Unusual auras were flooding out. Many people were frightened, trembling, goosebumps all over and feeling nauseous. It was as if something were raging in their guts, an uncontrollable fear etched deeply into their genes. What is going on? I feel like I can't control my hands. They're shaking. Why is my heart pounding? I can't calm down. The ascendants of all star zones were shocked. The top experts of the universe were overwhelmed by fear. Not even Celestials had frightened them as much. Some were trembling nonstop, and while others held their chests as if about to throw up. Something happening to the ancient corpse. Is it regaining consciousness? Said one of the cultivators. That would be horrifying. Was the ancient corpse, which belonged to a universe dominator, waking up? This place is not safe. Let's go, said another in the crowd, being fast enough to react. They had watched enough drama, time to run. Some of them boarded their warships and flew away, while others planned to stay and watch for a while longer. If the universe dominator did wake up, he might not pay any attention to ants like them. Ascendants were far too weak in the eyes of a universe dominator, just like worms on the ground, and they would most likely be overlooked. All the people in the crowd were the adventurous sort. They saw the event as an opportunity. Whoosh! Some people were even flying towards the ancient corpse, trying to figure out what was wrong from close up. It's not my doing. Since she was a celestial, Kaophalet was also able to see the ancient corpse despite the long distance. She discovered that the massive body was no longer still. It was raising an arm. The situation was truly odd. Was the corpse really going to revive? The inheritance memories allowed her to learn what an unparalleled expert used to own that body. So many years have passed. Is that man going to return? I know it's not your doing. Su Ping was gloomy and slightly surprised by the corpse's unexpected move. However, He knew that his current unease was not being caused by the gargantuan body, but by something lurking in the depths of the crack in the universe. It was somewhere beyond the universe. Something seemed to be moving towards their world. What could it be? A creature from outside the universe. Su Ping had seen countless cultivation sites thanks to the system. Many of them were extremely vast. He was sure that they were not found in that universe. If the universe could be compared to a planet, it could be considered that other worlds existed beyond that universe. Those worlds also had outer walls. However, there was the possibility of some unimaginable existences being able to break those walls and travel to other universes. Should I stay and watch, or should I leave immediately? Su Ping's eyes glittered. It is advised that the host returns to the store immediately, echoed in his mind all of a sudden, using the gravest tone. Su Ping was slightly surprised. It was the first time for the system to be so readily warning him. Judging by the alert, the danger was obviously great. It was possible that not even the system's help would be enough. Let's go. Without sparing a thought, Su Ping severed Kaophalat's head, then sent it along with the rest of her body to his universe of chaos. He then moved to rejoin his eldest brother and the rest. An ancient roar echoed while he acted, which deafened the entire universe. The entire Mayhem Star Zone was covered by the distant and furious roar, which seemed to be coming from the void beyond the Star Zone. It worked directly on the soul. The laws it carried twisted the vacuum while transmitting into the far distance. What is going on? Su Ping raised his head and looked at the source of the roar, only to discover that the ancient corpse had stood up. Was the ancient corpse resurrecting? The next moment, Su Ping witnessed the most terrifying scene. At the edge of the universe's kraken between the black and twisted Tao glyphs, a pair of hands reached outward, full of strange black spots. Those hands were extremely huge. They held onto the crack in the universe. There's something all right. Goosebumps popped up all over his body the moment he saw the hands, feeling the deepest fear coming from his very soul. He knew it was probably the danger that the system wanted him to evade. Run! Su Ping quickly flashed and found Song Yuan and the others. Chapter 1274, The War Emperor, 1. Junior Brother. Song Yuan and the others felt conflicted as they saw their junior brother arrive. They had seen how he clutched Kaophalat's neck as if she were a lamb to be butchered. The girl was no match for Su Ping, even after receiving the legacy. That was the most likely reason for his survival. They didn't know how their junior had done it, and even suspected that Su Ping had been concealing his true level, an ascendant who had just reached the celestial state. Everything would make sense if that was the case. This place isn't safe anymore. Senior brothers, come with me. Let's leave immediately, said Su Ping in a hurry, not giving them any chance to ask questions. Everybody was dazed. Song Yuan looked at the ancient corpse and asked, shocked and suspicious, is it because of that? They couldn't see the ancient corpse clearly, but they could tell that a terrifying aura was being spread from that general direction. The likelihood of the corpse actually being reanimated was there. After all, even Yi Chen, a mere celestial, was already capable of resurrecting. They could only imagine the power of a universe dominator. Yes, Su Ping nodded and waved a hand, creating a round force field with chaos power. He said, I'm going to tear a way open through the wall of the universe and flash back to the celestial court. Senior brothers, please come in. Chunyu suddenly asked, Junior brother where, master? Su Ping clenched his fists, taken aback by the question. They killed master, but he left a clone waiting for us in the celestial court. I will help master in reforging a body and recover his celestial cultivation. His declaration was done with determination. It also sounded like a promise to himself. The expressions of his seniors changed when they heard Su Ping's resolute voice. There was too much information packed in that sense. They also realized that their master could have died. However, it was terrifying to find that Su Ping would help him reforge his body. Song Yuan wasted no time in talking, noticing Su Ping's anxiety. Let's go back first. The weird feeling caused by the ancient corpse made him uneasy, like having fallen into a snake pit. The others remained silent, simply entering Su Ping's force field. A figure emerged in the void right then. He was none other than Kai Huo. He looked around and saw Su Ping. He instantly flashed over and asked, "Brother Su, where are you going?" "This place is dangerous. We'd better get out of here," said Su Ping. "Look at the crack." Kai Huo looked quickly, momentarily stunned. Time and space were removed before his eyes, allowing him to see the ancient corpse with clarity. His expression changed in an instant. He then understood why he had that ominous feeling when he came out from the deeper spaces. "What's that?" Kai Huo was appalled. "Is a creature trying to break in from beyond the crack?" He had learned a thing or two about the things found beyond the universe after researching countless relics and ancient books. He then thought of all sorts of terrible possibilities, and his face blanched, clearly not expecting an even bigger disaster to happen. "Hurry up, let's go." Kai Huo couldn't help but roar. He looked at Su Ping and said, "Brother Su, let's break the universe's wall together and return to the celestial court." "Okay." Su Ping agreed, wanting to return Kai Huo's generous aid in battle. "I'll go fetch my disciples. Be right back," said Kai Huo in a hurry. He then disappeared. Su Ping could only wait on the spot. He also activated his power to break the universe's wall in advance, so that they could leave as soon as Kai Huo returned. Song Yuan and the others were shocked by the way Kai Huo was addressing their junior. They knew that Su Ping was strong, having suppressed Kaophalet, but they never thought that the fiery-tempered Kai Huo would regard him as a peer. This was a clear indicator. Kai Huo acknowledged that Su Ping was as strong as him. Furthermore, they thought that the former had never been as courteous, even towards their master. Roar! Exactly at that moment a furious roar burst out without any warning. Everybody's ears were split, and their souls were almost about to fly out of their bodies. Su Ping was quite taken aback too. He hurriedly looked and then witnessed the most unbelievable scene. The now standing corpse was throwing a punch at the crack. Countless stars seemed to be glittering on its fist, which contained a power that surpassed the might of any small universe. The aftermath of such a strike was enough to make Su Ping feel that the universe was falling apart. His body instinctively detected the danger and unleashed more power. A deafening roar burst out. The black hands grabbing onto the crack in the universe moved to intercept the corpse's incoming fist, only to be smashed back into the crack. Is the ancient corpse really resurrecting? Su Ping was shocked. That creature was as strong as a god emperor. He hadn't detected any aura of vitality in that body. Even its legacy had been given to Kaophalet. And yet, it was resurrecting. Su Ping had spoken to god emperors in the Archean divinity before. The gap between his and their level was too massive for him to learn much about them. Su Ping extended a hand and fetched Kaophalet's head from the universe of chaos. He asked, "You received the legacy. You must know who the ancient corpse was, right?" Kaophalet's head was held in Su Ping's hand. She felt conflicted, no longer resentful and angry with Su Ping's interrogation. She had a deep, first-hand sense of Su Ping's real power once inside the universe of chaos. He had only used but a tenth of his strength to suppress her. Chapter 1275, The War Emperor 2. What did that mean? He was almost invincible in the celestial state. His small universe is much more brilliant and unbelievable than any in existence. To make things worse, it's exclusively made with the primitive power of chaos. Kaophalet was extremely shocked. She had also realized why Su Ping had been able to kill her master with such ease. Is that? Following Su Ping's request, she looked at the ancient corpse and instantly noticed how it was fighting the creature on the other side of the spatial crack. Her eyes widened in shock. "No way." "No way what?" demanded Su Ping. "He's already dead as one can be. There's no way he could resurrect." Kaophalet couldn't believe her eyes. The memories assimilated from the legacy told her that the man had already been completely destroyed in that earth-shattering war. He used the last moment of his life to store a legacy inside his body. The legacy had been acquired by her. There was no power left in his body. It was no longer possible for him to act. "Why are you so sure that he's dead?" Su Ping frowned. "He was born a genius of his tribe. He defeated experts of many other tribes during his rise, slaughtering countless ferocious beasts while making a name for himself." Follett mumbled on. "He fought countless battles and was known as the unquestionable war emperor. However, a cataclysm befell his kingdom. The earth fell apart and the sky was deprived of a sun. He was attacked by many who were as strong as him during the war. He fought until he ran out of strength. Even his soul was consumed. Only his immortal body was left behind. He's dead, absolutely dead. Based on his memories, he knew he was doomed. Also, the people who fought him would certainly not let him survive, so there's no way he could resurrect." Su Ping was dazed for a moment, but he soon calmed down. Whoever reached the God-Emperor level would surely live an unimaginably splendid life. He asked, "What's his name?" Follett seemed to be astounded by his questioning. Her eyes widened, stunned for a few seconds. She finally looked at Su Ping and said, "He didn't leave a name. He actually covered his name in his memories. The faces of his wife and children are blurry too. However, I know that people called him War Emperor." "Just a title." Su Ping looked at the ancient corpse. The noises in the world became louder. Su Ping saw all sorts of folds in the void that managed to reach the place where he was. The nearby void had been disordered. It was easy for them to be caught in deeper spaces. It wasn't advisable for ascendants to stay for long, either. The ancient corpse was fighting fiercely against the creature beyond the crack, but their fighting style was overly primitive. The corpse merely slugged punches, while the unknown creature waved its claws to defend and counterattack, inflicting wounds on the ancient corpse. He didn't leave a name because he didn't want others to find out who he was. He was also an expert who died in a cataclysm, at the hands of many people who were as strong as him. There's indeed no way that he could have survived. Su Ping looked at the ancient corpse. Its rigid move suddenly gave him an idea. Is it possible that the ancient corpse didn't come back to life, and is only acting instinctively? The mere thought shocked him. If that was the case, then the corpse's instinct was indeed terrifying. His soul had disappeared countless years in the past, but his body retained his battle instincts. Furthermore, was the creature on the other side of the crack similar to the enemies from the ancient corpse's past? Was that the reason why it reacted? That could be the only explanation, because there was no movement when explorers roamed and sabotaged inside his corpse. Celestials fought and didn't make the corpse react either. Boom! Waves were spreading in the world. All the buildings in the City of Sins collapsed. Many of the residents were killed, obliterated on the spot. Some who had reached the ascendant state were fleeing in panic, covered in heavy wounds. The ascendants still exploring the corpse's interior were killed when the body threw the first punch. Whoosh! Kai Huo finally returned, shock all over his face. He had naturally seen the battle between the ancient corpse and the unknown creature. However, the creature had been blocked by the ancient corpse, so he couldn't see the full picture. The battle between universe dominators is truly terrifying. Kai Huo was truly frightened. He said to Su Ping, "Brother Su, let's go." Su Ping nodded. Having mastered his universe of chaos gave him a deeper understanding of the outer universe. He had already broken the universal barrier while talking, as it wasn't difficult for him. All he needed to do was to fold 9 deep spaces and pierce through them. This entailed penetrating the entire universe in one go. It was an arduous task for normal celestials, but Su Ping could do this in 3 seconds when using the power of his chaos universe. "Let's go." Su Ping turned around and entered the channel created in the wall of the universe. He turned around and gave a last look at the ancient corpse, feeling conflicted by what he saw. What kind of stubbornness prompts him to fight like this? Whoosh! Su Ping disappeared after going through the universal wall. Kai Huo followed up close, destroying the channel and closing the wall right after he entered. The next moment, Su Ping and Kai Huo appeared in the celestial court which stood in space, glittering as brilliantly as ever. It was truly warm, familiar, and reassuring. Let me check our master's clone first. Su Ping stayed in space for a moment, and then flew to the celestial court. Kai Huo appeared behind Su Ping, releasing his disciples from within his small universe, including the top ascendant cultivators such as Liu Zia. This is the celestial court. Liu Zia and the others were slightly stunned as they saw the place. They weren't relieved until they saw their own master. Liu Zia was the eldest disciple. She was also acting as leader of all her junior brothers and sisters, so she asked on their behalf. Kai Huo replied solemnly, "The catastrophe predicted by the sages might be happening in advance. We're now on the same boat with the celestial court. We have to weather this catastrophe together. The entire universe could fall to its doom if we don't react well." "That's serious." Everybody was shocked. Kai Huo didn't answer. He simply waved a hand and kept up with Su Ping. Everybody noticed the latter by then, and their expressions changed instantly, showing awkwardness. The kid who used to be a mere star lord had changed and suppressed Kaephalet, the saint heir from the planet of origin who had just reached the celestial state. It was some sort of evolution. Ray. However, they felt rather helpless upon remembering Su Ping's past feats. Were all geniuses expected to break the norm in such a way? The protective array was still active outside the celestial court, but Su Ping carried his identification and could readily use the main entrance. The array was meant to resist ambushes from celestial experts of the Heavenly Devil Alliance, such as Yi Chen. Su Ping thought that he could now break the array, but it was obviously unnecessary. He went through the entrance and was about to look for his master's clone when he saw a figure flashing in his direction. The man was extremely handsome. He seemed to be the extravagant son of a rich family. "You were indeed able to return safely," the young man said. His voice was as clear as the stars and the moon. With shock and excitement in his eyes, he asked, "How did you manage to return? I remember that the Saint King was still there when I fell." He looked at Kai Huo while he spoke. The latter looked back at the young man suspiciously, soon noticing a nine-tailed fox on his shoulder. His eyes widened as he said, "My goodness, is this your clone?"